Everybody, what's up? Welcome to the daily live stream. Happy Friday, everybody. Happy Friday night. Same rules of engagement as per usual. I hope everybody's doing well tonight. I hope you guys have a great weekend. Shout out to everybody that stopped by all week. We're going to get right into the live stream on this late Friday night. I want you guys to hit that like button as you come in. Please make sure that you say where you're watching from. Engage in the chat. We want you to engage in the chat. Just remember the rules of engagement. Please don't disrespect my subs, my moderators, any supporters. That's the only thing that's going to get you censored out of the chat or blocked. So I appreciate you guys not doing that. Make sure that you share your opinions. You keep it cordial, respectful, and short. Don't flag the AI mod. And let's just have a good time. How's everybody doing tonight? I hope you guys are being safe. Hope you guys are being productive. Hope you're hitting your goals. All the good things for 2026. I got some great clips for us to jump into. So without further ado, I'm gonna go by the thumbnail title. Well, at least by the title. You guys know I like to do that. So for anybody who jumps in the live stream, they could just see exactly where we're watching from. So let's go first to Candace Owens on Nick Fuentes being a Fed asset. This was interesting. I actually didn't get to watch this clip in its entirety, but I did get to watch a decent amount of it. And some of the things that Candace is saying is crazy. Not crazy in the sense where it's unbelievable, but just interesting to say the least. Shout out to Liberty Vote. He's actually the one who covered this for us tonight. So we're going to jump right in.
He led people into a Capitol with a bullhorn and said, ignore police, storm the barriers, as if he had fed instructions. And we know for a fact he was informed the night before that the feds were going to be, that there was some Fed trap happening. And despite that, he went with a bullhorn. He didn't just attend, he had a bullhorn and he's telling people to storm and he doesn't get arrested. Keep focused on the minutia. The left versus right, right?
Candace Owens just accused Nick Fuentes of being a federal asset, especially as it pertains to his recent comments downplaying the pedophilia and the sex crimes that Jeffrey Epstein was involved in. And also Candace gets into some moments from Fuentes' past that sure do seem to indicate, at the very least, some eyebrow-raising things about his involvement with the Fed. So let's take a look. Please like the video and subscribe to the channel.
No one's arguing about Jeffrey Epstein's perverted interest, a sexual interest. Someone's arguing that. However, Nick Fuentes is going to explain why actually that's not pedophilia. Take a listen.
This whole pedo thing, it's like, is it really pedophilia? I don't want to be the one that has to say it, but I guess I'm being forced to say it. It's not really pedophilia, okay? They weren't trafficking 5-year-olds. It was like they were technically not legal. Big difference, in my opinion. I know.
I'm going to just say this. Like, at the beginning of watching this and listening to Nick literally describe this, I was like, okay, Nick, like you know, you're pushing some interesting boundaries now. It wasn't pedophilia, but they were barely legal. So, like, to Nick, there's a difference, right? Between a 5-year-old and a 15-year-old. And Megyn Kelly said this, but nonetheless, they're both pedophilia. So if you're a grown person, whether you're trying to have sex with a 5-year-old or a 15-year-old, like you are a pedophile. Like, so I just think it's very interesting that Nick is saying, like, it's not really, like, this was wild to me. So let's keep watching.
I know that's a controversial take, but that's not really the issue there, okay? The issue is not that they were barely legal teens, which is what it is. It's horrendous, it's awful, it's pedophilia. Okay, relax. No, the issue is that Epstein is a Jewish spy, probably working with Israel. That's the dilemma there. He's working with Israeli intelligence.
Listen to this. Emma in Texas just placed the craziest under-omission order. She picked sandalwood, clean.
Okay, a few things. So both of those things are problems, that he was engaging in sex crimes with children. And by the way, that is pedophilia, even if they're 17 in many places. The legal definition of pedophilia is that it's sexual acts toward minors. In most places in the United States, I know it's different elsewhere in some cases, that's anyone under 18. That is a child. And where are you going to draw the line? Is it really that important that you violated that with some rather than others? You can make a case for that, but that is part of this. And guess what? Prominent people were involved in this sex trafficking ring. So no, Nick, that is part of the story. It's a big part of the story, and we demand answers there still. And it's not, Epstein was probably working for Israel. He was working for Israel. We know that. We've broken it down on the site, the channel, all the time. His relationships with Ehud Barak, writing him speeches, doing wire transfers with Israelis.
Yeah, shout out to Liberty Volt. That is something that we know. That's why I thought it was very interesting when Nick was like, it's not the problem is not that they were pedophiles or that they were sex trafficking. The problem is that, Epstein was working for Israel. And I'm like, dude, that stuff already has come out. Like, we're already past that. So I just felt like he threw that out there as a huge distraction from the fact that he just said it's not really pedophilia. They're just barely legal. I was like, all right, Nick, that's a little suspect, buddy.
His direct role in creating security agreements between Israel and Mongolia and Israel and Ivory Coast, many other things documented by the great journalism over at Drop Site. We know that. But yeah, that's part of it too, Nick. It's not just the Israel connection.
Honestly, this is a time where it is appropriate to say this. Stop. That's it. That's all I have to say. Stop. Agree. I watched. Just stop right there. Why? Why are we always here in society for no reason? How easy is it not to do that? Okay, not to try to use some technicality. Which, by the way, who do you think is in control of these definitions? By the way, I mean, they are changing the definition of what it means to be a girl and a boy right now. So if you can find, well, look at this definition. Technically, if the person is 11, if the person's not under 5, who cares if they're prepubescent? The point is not pedophilia. We've expanded the definition.
Yeah, that's where, like, what Candace is saying here, this is where it was messing me up. Because that's what I'm saying. It's like that... 5 is prepubescent. So it's like, what? It's better if they're not, like... As long as they're not 12, 5, 12. As long as they're more, like, 15 and 16. I'm just like, dude, really? Like, this is a creepy line, bro. Like, this is creepy, bro.
We're constantly expanding and changing definitions to confuse people against common sense.
Yeah, I think there's something to that. Now, he didn't exactly say who cares, but at the same time, it does seem to be downplaying this, and these were atrocities committed against the will of these girls. And it was just appalling that so many witnesses lined up, and then for him to get the sweetheart deal in 2008, and then you had the additional charges against them. And we know some of his victims were as low as, I think, 11. And there might have even been some that were younger. He even got special arranged triplets, I think, sent to him. This is just hideous. By his co-collaborator, Jean-Luc Brunel, the Frenchman involved in sex trafficking as well. He went down, much like Epstein, mysterious circumstances. Jean-Luc Brunel killed himself. Nothing to see here. Sweep it under the rug. No co-collaborators, as they always said about Epstein. The FBI maintained that. It is part of the story. So for Nick to downplay it really does at least raise eyebrows that, don't look at this. Just focus on this other area of Epstein, even though there's documented evidence of all the atrocities that were involved. They were pedophilia. And whatever you call them, they deserve to be punished. The victims deserve justice. And the American people deserve knowing who was involved in that. And I'll never stop preaching that. I'll never stop saying that.
Okay? If you are sexually interested...
I think that was why Nick's comment was so problematic for me. Now we know he's a young guy, but it's almost like saying, so you don't think your 15 or 16-year-old daughter would deserve justice because she's not 5 at the time? Like, dude, I don't know where he was going with this, but I can just tell you right now, to me, it was all bad from the moment he started.
In prepubescent children, you're a pedophile. How about that? Is that easy? Thumbs up? Cool? We good? And what is just so remarkable to me, and like I said, I've been fine with him doing his thing. Obviously, he's a federal informant. It's ridiculous for people that don't understand that. It's ridiculous that people just keep following him despite the overwhelming evidence. I mean, this guy took a meeting with Dan Wilkes' partner after years of screaming about Ben Shapiro and talking about Israel. He took a meeting with Defend Texas Liberty and Ferris Wilkes' partner, and pitched, one reporter got documents, was pitching to sell the data of his followers. And people were like, that's fine. He led people into a Capitol with a bullhorn and said, ignore police, storm the barriers, as if he had fed instructions. And we know for a fact he was informed the night before by Milo Yiannopoulos, that the feds were going to be, that there was some Fed trap happening. And despite that, he went with a bullhorn. He didn't just attend, he had a bullhorn, and he's telling people to storm, and he doesn't get arrested. And his lawyer wants to go off record when he's asked directly about whether or not he is a federal informant. It's been so in your face and obvious.
Most people don't realize that traditional central AC and furnace systems cost way more to run than a duct.
Yeah, I mean, for me, that's the thing that most...
Dude, that whole pitching to sell his followers information, I was like, dude, what? Like, this guy is actually doing stuff like that. That's crazy. So, like, see, when Candace said this is when I really started to kind of side-eye everything, because I was like, now, what would be the point of Nick having that type of meeting? Based on some of the stuff we hear him saying on his podcast, we wouldn't think that he would take a meeting like that. Yet he did. Allegedly, according to Candace.
Raises my suspicions about Fuentes being a Fed is his involvement in January 6th with the bullhorn. You can still find clips of that speech that he said with some themes in that speech, standing right up, close up to the Capitol, saying things that were wildly indistinguishable from Ray Epps. Break down the barriers, storm, go inside, things like that, talking about this is our chance for a new American revolution. Don't take it from me, watch the speech. It's actually been transcribed, it's been shared around. You can find articles of it, clips of it showing what exactly he said, but not getting charged with any of that. Not getting the same charges as some people, like a grandma who's forced to wear an ankle monitor after that. For the people that got arrested, thrown into solitary over that. Fuentes was free. He left. He didn't take his own advice, just like Ray Epps. He said that kind of stuff and dished out. Now, as far as selling the data of his members, that could be, something that a Fed would do. Obviously, there would be gains in doing that. But a financial motive for that exists outside of potentially being a Fed. I know from talking to marketers and work that, data, customer data is very important. It's a money driver. And you could have, a lot of different impulses to do that to benefit yourself outside of providing it to the feds. And if it was provided to the feds, it might be clandestine anyway. So there could be something there. But to me, the Jan 6th thing and the fact that he feuds with every other good critic of Israel, especially on the right, I would say, that seems to be indicative of someone that might want to cause a schism between the right at a time when many voices like Candace's, like Tucker's, like Daryl Cooper's are just shutting it down on the pro-Israel mentality.
The ridiculous, I just got $250,000 in Bitcoin from France from a guy who's killed himself and published a letter 24 hours after he was dead, because he set it on a timer, and it's in perfect English, and anybody who's ever been to France, French people don't speak perfect English. They are not writing a letter in English, even if they speak perfect English. It's just been so absurd that it offends my senses. It offends my sensibility that people have been following him. This is a Glee Club kid, okay? He's dramatic. I like Nick Fuentes clips. I like watching Real Housewives clips. And this is, by the way, the problem, as I said, that heterosexual men cannot continue to follow theater boys. This is actually an illness in our society, is that people who are playing the part of men and are actually at their core theater boys and want to go to Congress and want to have platforms and would never fight wars, they are, for whatever reason, being listened to by actual men.
Well, they are, but they could actually be listened to refute in a debate. That's what we wanted them to do to Fuentes, is not to just try to shut it.
I think Liberty Vote makes a point here when he says that they could be listening to be refuted in a debate. But I can see Candace's point here because Nick does have a certain group of following of young men, and it's like it's some of the stuff that Nick says already before this is troublesome already. You know, like just some of the stuff like sex is a gay act, having sex with women makes you gay. He hates women, like just a lot of the stupid stuff he spews, right? So it's like I always say I don't blame him for it. He's still relatively young. I'm older than Nick, so his opinions don't offend me. I don't care. Like he shares his opinion, and I listen to what I want to listen to, like some of his hot takes. But I mean, this right here is troublesome because it's like now the group of young men that follow you, they're already young, they're already arrogant, they're already lost. And now you're basically teaching them that, hey, you know, like, as long as you're not into a 5-year-old, that's cool. You know, 17, 16-year-olds a little bit better. And that's just crazy work to me.
Him down and cancel him, but to actually refute his ideas. And there's some low-hanging fruit, Candace, I would say, that you could refute. You're doing it right now. So I don't think really the best cause or the best solution is just like, don't listen to what he's saying. That's what Shapiro and Levin are saying about him. And I'm not saying you're on their team or whatever, but at the same time, you can listen to someone and rip it too. Of course, people get influenced by them. People get influenced by anyone. But you have to have, I think, some confidence in reason and deductive logic from the average person that at least is willing to dissect these things and entertain the pros and cons to debate them. But overall, I'm with her. There's a lot of things that he does that does seem to be driving wedges among the right, downplaying Epstein's pedophilia. It's so supporting the regime change operation in Venezuela that if you're not at least considering the possibility he's just on that side, I don't know what to tell you. Now, that said, there have been moments of alignment between me and him, especially when it comes to Israel lobby. The Israeli influence in the United States regime change operations, but he uses some of the same excuses in Venezuela to say, hey, they have oil. We can take oil. It's our continent, Monroe Doctrine. But you could use that same ploy as a neocon propaganda pitch for Iran, too. They're sitting on huge oil reserves. So is Nick saying that would be the argument for overthrowing and toppling the Iranian regime, the arch nemesis of Israel, then that would be a supportable regime change operation? To me, there's too many absurdities here.
This was just unbelievable to me that the statement was made and you couldn't see that it was going to end here. Of course, this is what happens. This is what happens when you elect or you decide that you're going to follow people who don't like women. That's the reality. They don't like women. So family offends them. And despite making that statement, he then tries to do a 180 and pretend he didn't just say what we heard him say. Here's what he said in a follow-up where he's going to yell at you for hearing what he just said, which is that it's not pedophilia. Take a listen.
This is not just about somebody was trafficking girls somewhere. That's not the story. The story is someone was trafficking girls to acquire blackmail to sell to Israel. That is the point. And that is what I said last night.
Okay, both of the story. We have to think about the exploited human beings in this too. And yeah, it was probably part of a greater blackmail operation for the benefit of Israeli intelligence. But both are stories. Why? Prominent people in the U.S. were involved in that, Nick. People of prominence surrounded Epstein, swirled around him, and were involved in this nonsense. So that's part of the story too. That's all I'd say.
I said, for someone to make it all about pedophilia, I said, it's kind of just like, it's not really true, because again, it does get away from what's happening there. It is not satanic pedophilia cult stuff. It is really run-of-the-mill prostitution and sex trafficking, but for a international political purpose. And it's important not to lose sight of that. I saw Marjorie Greene say this is about female victims. It's actually not about female victims. It's about the integrity of our government. You understand the difference?
I understand.
See, Nick's trying to make it seem like two things can't be true at one time. And that's what I'm talking about when, it's important to listen to someone and see where they're coming from, what's their point of reasoning. And it's like, that just doesn't make any sense. Like, of course, it's about, like, young women who have been taken advantage of, right? Because if the young women weren't like the centerpiece of it all, then what would be the big deal anyway, right? They could have easily done things to get information from Israel, whether it was drug related, whether it was just information related. They could have done anything. So I think that he's really forgetting that two things can be true at one time, and it most certainly is about the girls, but it is also about government as well.
And that it's about both. I think that's the difference between you and me, Nick. It is about both things. The integrity of our government, how compromised it is by Israel, and these victims were people that weren't part of the Israeli government, took part in these indulgences, these crimes, and they covered it up. They covered it up under the Trump administration for 11 months. They're still covering it up. We're not going to ever get the real unredacted Epstein files. We've gotten a lot. And everything points to this being rotten to the core in every single way. Things confirmed that Kash Patel and Bongino and Pam Bondi lied about this being sex trafficking and up to 10 co-collaborators with Epstein and other things. They lied through their teeth. Both are parts of this story.
It's not to say we're not sympathetic. It's not to say that it's not criminal. It's not to say that it's good. I'm not defending it. I'm saying this is not Dateline. This is not a human interest story. This is a layered crime. It's one crime in the furtherance of a much more politically significant crime. But all these dumb they literally just don't have the IQ to understand that. For them, it's just about screeching about the same nonsense every day. They don't understand what they're talking about. They have no idea about anything. They hear something they don't like. They say, oh, he's with Israel now. He got paid. I'm sorry. I've been doing this way longer than you. When did you come on the scene? When did you get red pilled? Last year? 10 minutes ago? When did you start talking about this stuff? Oh, now you're the expert and the gatekeeper.
If you got hit, even as a passenger or in an Uber, you would need to try this.
Were you recently injured in a car accident? Look at...
I'm done with that.
It sure seems like he's acting like a gatekeeper here with what you can and cannot talk about related to Epstein. Am I wrong about that? That's what it seems to be to me, not other people. You know, having the gall to mention, well, there are human victims here, that's a part of it. Politicians covering up for that, well-connected businessmen and bureaucrats and legal minds involved in all this with Epstein, that's part of it too. And it's a gatekeeping penchant of Nick's to say that they're the gatekeepers when he's saying that's not part of the story. Yeah.
I'm out. Seriously. You don't have to unfollow me because I'm out. This whole movement of Gen X idiots that are obsessed with satanic pedophile elite and psycho conspiracy kookery that doesn't even make sense, this Candace Owens bull, I'm out of all that. Seriously. I'm done with that.
Yeah, this is the kid who sat across from me and said that people that are sub-Saharan just don't have a high IQ. Let me tell you what he strikes me as. Nick strikes me as someone who was really bright in high school, then he got a little bit of fame and he stopped reading books. That's it. This is what happens. People go, I made it, I don't have to learn anymore. I can just shut off my brain and just keep repeating the same talking points. Because if you do not understand that this is a cult, that the theology matters much more than the politics, okay? This left-right dialectic, it means nothing until you understand the theology that is guiding these elites worldwide. And it is, in fact, occultic. It is, in fact, satanic. And these are, in fact, ritualistic. It's all over. You need but read articles that are in your face or conduct even a minor incursion into the history of psychology, which was brought upon our shores, a minor incursion even to the establishment of Hollywood. It's right there in your face. And by the way, it is actually low IQ anti-Semitism, like you call it, to just go, oh, well, that's just all Jews. That's why I don't like Dave Smith. I don't even like Dave Smith, even though he's completely on our side on everything. It's him. That's actually what low IQ anti-Semitism is. Because
I kind of agree with that, actually. There have been times where he does say that about Dave. I think that he hasn't said as many sour things about Dave since they had a conversation, though. But I'm with her. This is a cult mentality that's covering up for Epstein, that's involved in downplaying some of Epstein's atrocities, the Epstein cover-up, the Trump administration and the Biden administration's role in that. But I think it's the cult of the omnipotent state. It's not really a theological cult. It's actually a substitute for religion or theology. You're putting in this hedonistic pedophile transnational ring at the forefront of what you care about. And that's to the detriment of regular people, not only the victims, but also Americans who have our government compromised by Epstein's connections to Israel that we know are ironclad. So I don't necessarily think it's a theological cult. It's a cult of the omnipotent state, the corruption involved in that, and every great excess of the state power and state atrocities that flow from it.
To be clear, this occultic, ritualistic stuff, these people are gypsies. They exist in every faith. Let's be clear, Aleister Crowley was a student of this. Did Aleister Crowley exist? Did Jack Parsons exist? Who established the Apollo program at NASA? Was he similarly conducting occult sexual rituals to establish a moon child? Did we then suddenly go to the moon after the Apollo program was established? So actually, Nick, it's you that is demonstrating that you have a low IQ, or rather that you are trying to tell your audience to stop learning. You're trying to convince them, and by the way, you're trying to convince them that Satan is a conspiracy theory. Keep focused on the minutia. The left versus right? It's Israel versus America. It's not bigger than that. There's no global conspiracy happening. We weren't told that Satan's going to inherit the earth.
Well, yeah, I mean, I'm mostly with Candace on this, but I wouldn't say it's because Nick is low IQ. In fact, I happen not to believe that whatsoever. I think he's doing a shock jock routine, and if he has Fed connections, some of the things he's doing would cause schisms on the right. Downplaying Epstein's pedophilia, I thought I'd never see that one. Trying to drive schisms between the best figures on the right on the Israel issue, not even in areas where there seems to be disagreement on actual policy, but on Israel, with Tucker and Candace and Daryl Cooper and some others, that seems to be indicative of a scheme to pit people against each other. And yeah, focus on the minutia, left, right. He's doing a shock jock routine, and if he has Fed connections, some of the things he's doing would cause schisms on the right. Downplaying Epstein's pedophilia, I thought I'd never see that one. Trying to drive schisms.
I don't know if I'm that shocked about that one. I don't know if I am. But there's definitely things that Candace is saying that made me raise my eyebrow a couple of times while watching this. And I got to admit, I wasn't paying attention to it prior to this.
Between the best figures on the right on the Israel issue, not even in areas where there seems to be disagreement on actual policy, but on Israel, with Tucker and Candace and Daryl Cooper and some others, that seems to be indicative of a scheme to pit people against each other. And yeah, focus on the minutia, left, right. Nick doesn't really say that completely here, but he's just saying like it's all about Epstein and Israel. And don't get me wrong, you guys are watching my channel, many of which you know from my talking about Epstein and his connections to Israel, the government of Israel, doing work directly on behalf of the government of Israel. But it is a much larger story with a human element to it that has connections to prominent people in the United States. It's not just about Israel. It's the criminals that covered this up in the United States. And Trump continues to cover it up. Kash Patel and Dan Bongino lied about it. And Dan Bongino has the gall to go out there and say, I'm going to podcast again, after banning something like 10,000 people on Twitter for saying, yeah, you betrayed us all, you lied about Epstein, and you tried to cover it up. And that's the truth. Now, another thing Candace said earlier that I want to...
Yeah, that was kind of crazy watching Dan Bongino with that crash out. Like, watching him go back to podcasting, if I'm honest, I thought he would be more transparent. I thought he would leave the FBI and feel more free. You know, and I thought he was going to jump on that podcast. At least I hoped that he was going to jump on that podcast and say, you know what, F it, man. Like, I'm letting the people know what I know. But it actually turned out to be totally different. People called him out, and he just kind of crashed out and started blocking people left and right.
to touch on is the fact that a lot of people want to like kind of find that legal loophole to twist the definitions of words to exploit them, generate a narrative around that and push that. And I do think Nick seems to be doing that in terms of pedophilia here. It's like, would it make a difference to you whether, like, the arbitrary, like, the cutoff, any kind of cutoff between what someone thought was pedophilia between, like, a 6 or a 7-year-old? That doesn't matter in the least. Someone was exploited due to this criminal elite that covers up for this nonsense and expects us not to ask questions about it. I don't think so. But Candace is right about that, because we saw that during the COVID regime, too. Remember, they said, hey, we're going to roll out the vaccines. Remember Operation Warp Speed that Trump still takes credit for? Saying what an incredible success that was to roll out these vaccines on behalf of Big Pharma. And by the way, grant them immunity so you can't sue them for any dangers or deaths. And we know some deaths occurred of children during those trials. Alex Berenson just broke one a few weeks ago that was covered up for so long. I think one of the Moderna trials killed a child, and I think there has been more to that too. They just said, hey, we're going to roll out this mRNA treatment, call it a vaccine, because as of then, multitudes of Americans had a good impression of the product of a vaccine and not everyone. And it's obviously, encouraged vaccine hesitancy since, because it wasn't even a vaccine. So they do try to find, ways to twist what they think would be successful, market it that way, just to drive oppressive narratives on us and oppressive political policies. I think that's what you're seeing here with Fuentes' attempt to downplay Epstein's pedophilia, and that's not part of the story. Yeah, I'm sorry, Fuentes, we do think that's part of the story on Liberty Vault. I'll say that. But look, please like the video, subscribe to the channel, check out Candace Owens' channel, subscribe to her. And also, if you like this video, please consider joining as a YouTube member. You can do that by clicking the join button down below. If you do that, you'll get immediate access to all my videos that haven't gone live yet to the...
Shout out to Liberty Vault. You guys head over to his channel when you get a chance to watch some more of his videos. We're going to go over to Keith Edwards. Shout out to Keith, the channel favorite. Keith covered, did Trump have a stroke? I think he means, and this is allegedly, so we could say, did President Trump have a secret stroke? Let's see what Keith covered on this.
We'll cut to the chase. Since the beginning of time, humans have been trimming their nails. So, why...
Well. We all remember this face. Droopy. This is Donald Trump. 4 months ago? 4 months ago. Not being able to... I can't do that. Can you do that? Control the right side of his face. And now we know why. According to a doctor, Donald Trump experienced a stroke. And here's that.
My impression is that President Trump has had a stroke. And I think there's several lines of evidence supporting that. I think his stroke was on the left side of the brain, which controls the right side of the body.
Mm-hmm. Now, it's important to know that this doctor is saying that he says that that's his impression. So he doesn't know for sure that this happened, but this is based on a lot of observation that he's done over President Trump since his first presidency and now his second one.
I could, if you wish, I could give you those lines of evidence supportive.
Please. Sure. What do you observe?
Earlier in 2025, and by the way, I think the stroke was 6 months ago or more. Earlier in 2025, there's a video of him shuffling his feet, which is not what we'd seen him striding on the golf course doing previously.
I have that video here. Let's just watch it and then we'll go back to him. This is him shuffling his feet. And there's also this too. He's like carrying his leg in a strange way. Okay, so there's definitely some evidence of what the doctor's saying.
We've seen him holding his right hand in his left, cradling it. And Earlier in the year, in 2025, he was garbling words, which he didn't do previously and which he's improved upon more recently. And he's also had marked episodes that have been noticed of daytime excessive sleepiness, a medical term, hypersomnolence.
We have evidence of that, too. Of course, we just saw this yesterday. Here's some evidence of Donald Trump sleeping. As one commentator said, Donald Trump is asleep and he farts in front of two younger girls.
Over on this, Peter Welch, it is a bipartisan issue, and understanding where we are in this country and how important the health of certainly our children are is.
She's like, Mom, what is that smell, Mom?
Is characteristic of many patients after they've had a stroke. So the fact and most recently there was video of him walking down the stairs from Air Force One, holding the banister with his left hand, although he's right-handed. And all of this is consistent with having had a stroke on the left side of his brain. That stroke is an it's an infarction. It's an area of dead tissue. In his case, partially involving what's called Broca's speech area. And his subsequent, people who get a stroke, have a stroke, it's a very serious, concerning, life-threatening, upsetting, scary thing. And people react in different ways. Some people respond with humility, grateful to be alive and viewing life as precious. Others become, as they improve, become positively euphoric that I was at the cliff of death and now I'm back. And some view it as that was my chance to die, and I didn't. And now I'm going to do everything I wanted to do because the next one maybe fail. And another piece of evidence in favor of him having had a stroke is his telling us that he's taking a whole aspirin tablet, 325 milligrams daily.
What does that mean to take that? And he says it's to thin his blood. What is your expert opinion on that?
That's from the Wall Street Journal reporting that we went through last week.
Blood thinning is, of course, a lay term. Blood is composed of two primary constituents, cells and fluid. And blood thinning usually refers to the fluid. And for that, we use anticoagulants, like heparin, low molecular weight heparin, the newer drugs you've seen on TV, like Xarelto, Eliquis. Mm-hmm. There's cells, parts of cells called platelets. And those are the components of blood that make the very first plug when you cut yourself shaving, for example. Mm-hmm. You stop bleeding because platelets get there. Right. And aspirin and some other drugs interfere with platelets. Now, the field is very sophisticated as to what drugs in which combination you take for cardiac concerns, for example, to prevent a heart attack, a blockage of the coronary arteries, or for blood clots in the heart that can come from atrial fibrillation to prevent those blood clots going to the brain. There are also approaches to take if you've had a stent, for example.
Okay, so that reporting, it looks like, is true. Donald Trump's reason is not because of blood thinners, to thin his blood, because I want thin blood, he said. I want beautiful thin blood. But it's also probably because of what happened with this stroke. I mean, I think, very hopeful story, actually, very hopeful story. That man has 12 lives. But I guess that is one of the reasons why he has gotten more and more extreme, is because he, as this doctor says, he sees as though he does not have much time here. And remember, Donald Trump very recently has been talking about how he's not sure if he's going to make it to heaven. It is really strange also how he's been talking about his own mortality. So that is why doing these sorts of things where he's just being more and more extreme and he doesn't care. Now, this is underreported, and so I'm hoping you'll stay here for this because this is super important. This is the sign of dictatorship. Donald Trump may have had a stroke, but he is still in control. And the $500 million from the Venezuela oil deal isn't going to us. It's going to Qatar. The Trump administration's first sale of Venezuelan oil is valued at $500 million, an administration official told Semaphore. The sale marks an initial milestone in the administration's management of Venezuela after the U.S. ouster of Maduro. And it says here, Trump signed an executive order on Friday that provided some details on how the U.S. plans to block corporate creditors from tapping any revenue from those oil sales. Venezuela owes international bondholders, oil companies and others as much as $170 million, one reason why U.S. firms have been reluctant to help rebuild the country's infrastructure. And so what's happening is that the money is going to be going to Qatari banks. They're not going to be going here. And Scott Bessent says where they're going to oversee these accounts and then, at the president's direction and Secretary Rubio's direction, be in charge of the disbursement that goes back to Venezuela. The Treasury's role will be making sure the funds get to the proper place. They're the bankers. We don't direct the fund. I don't get that. So, I just don't, where is everyone? Because what that is Donald Trump is essentially controlling funds that should be going to our country. That shouldn't be Donald Trump's money. If we're taking that money, which I don't think we should, but if we're getting money from Venezuela, then Congress should decide how to spend that money. And certainly it should be going to American banks, not to Qatar. So my question is, where are the leaders? Where are our leaders? Because I looked at Chuck Schumer's press releases, and I got to tell you, not great. Chuck Schumer released a press release demanding the administration reverse offshore wind projects, demand the Trump administration to restore $6 million for Wayne County public schools. It's just where's the fight? Where's the fight? Because this man...
Yeah, he's upset because he doesn't see anything on the left side about it. He's just like Chuck Schumer's posting things and he's fighting for things, but it's not for things that, seem to be important. Things that can actually, defend people who have been hurt. So I can understand Keith's frustration here, especially with Chuck Schumer. Chuck tends to do this pretty often. So does Hakeem Jeffries.
Though his brain is melting, he is turning our Constitution into dust. And so we just really need fighters, and I just don't know where they are. But it's not this. What we're getting right now is not working, and we need to fix this. I don't know. I don't know why this. When I read this, it pissed me off, and also no one's talking about it. No one's talking about it. Where's the demand for Donald Trump to follow the Constitution and to let Congress do its job? Where's that, Chuck?
Yeah, shout out to Keith Edwards. I can understand his frustration there. I think we'll see more fight. I know he would like to see it sooner, but right now, it is what it is. And, Donald Trump still, even with the favorability rating dropping, he still has a very strong mandate, still has a big backing, So, same thing with Kristi Noem. People are like, she's going to get impeached finally. It seems like her paperwork is moving forward. I'm like, but Kristi Noem still has a great amount of the GOP supporting her. So, we have to remember that. All right, guys, we're going to go to the next clip where we look at Nick Fuentes defending Jeffrey Epstein. This is just telling you we can't make this stuff up. Let's take a listen.
Let's cover 10 pro tips for working with the Cursor agent. So I've got Cursor open and my agent on the right. And
All right, shout out to the amazing Lucas, channel favorite. We react to Lucas over here on the channel often. Go watch this channel when you guys get a chance. He covered Nick Fuentes is now defending Jeffrey Epstein.
Bruh. Oh my goodness. So this is my final warning to any adult male and especially any youth male that is listening to Nick Fuentes. Please stop, because he's going to get you locked up.
I'm glad somebody said it. I shouldn't be shocked that it was Lucas. Because, dude, like, like, Nick, it was already problematic before this. But this added on to it. I'm like, oh, no. Like, a whole generation of men are about to go off of a cliff.
It's that simple. He's going to get you locked up. This man has lost the plot. He has lost the plot so much that it's kind of obvious to anyone watching his demeanor and how it's evolved or devolved over the years that he has gotten his $7,000 check.
Damn.
I'm sure Netanyahu probably gave him a little bit more than everyone else, but the $7,000 check has 100% cleared because I couldn't believe when I saw it. I thought it was AI. I'm dead ass. I thought it was AI when I was hearing what I was seeing, bro. I was hearing what I was seeing. I'm mixing up my words. That's how like, just off-put I am by what I heard. You have Fuentes not even trying. He is defending Epstein. He's saying Epstein is a cool guy. He's base. And this is cool, right? This is what he is saying about Epstein.
So yeah, I mean, look, Epstein, baller ass nigga. And look, yeah, okay, criminal.
And his twisted logic, okay, his twisted mentality is that, hey, you guys are missing the bigger picture. The bigger picture is not that he was messing with kids, because he goes on to say that, well, these aren't really kids, okay? This isn't pedophilia. These are late teens.
This whole pedo thing, it's like, is it really pedophilia? I don't want to be the one that has to say it, but I guess I'm being forced to say it. It's not really pedophilia, okay?
What?
They weren't trafficking 5-year-olds. It was like they were technically not legal. Big difference in my...
Yeah, he's going to say big difference in my opinion. And I'm like, yeah, Nick, in your opinion. And in our opinion, you're weird. And you're strange because that's pedophilia, regardless of how you want to look at it.
My opinion. I know that's a controversial take.
Just a sick world living in sick people.
That the bigger picture is that he was, more than likely an Israeli spy trying to get blackmail.
No, the issue is that Epstein is a Jewish spy probably working with Israel. That's the dilemma there. He's working with Israeli intelligence.
Now, I don't know what to tell you, but there are a lot of ways to get blackmail. And if you think blackmail supersedes somebody messing with children, bruh, we have a problem, okay? We have a problem. Anyone in Lucas land, anyone defending Jeffrey Epstein, they get tried, they get convicted, and they get sentenced to the firing squad.
Boy, that escalated quickly.
That's how that works, okay? I don't know what to tell you. And I've always wondered, why are they so nonchalant with the Epstein files, bro? When they thought that the Democrats were the Epstein files, right, and they were actually hiding the Epstein files, they were all like, hey, release them. Cash Patel, Dan Bond, all these mofos, right? Then they get in there and mum's the word. Well, no, the official narrative is that that's correct. He did that to himself. And, there was no clientele list. And, this is what we got. Most of it's redacted, but here you go.
What?
Now I'm starting to realize, bro, this entire time, I didn't want to believe it. I just didn't want to believe it. But these mofos is really, they are really the lineage of evil. That's the best way, the YouTube PC way to say it, bro. That's what they are. They are genuinely the lineage of evil, okay? Because at the end of the day, these mofos aren't even concerned with women, all right? They're not even concerned with women. The majority of the white right, is either homosexuals, closeted homosexuals, trans, or they want to mess with kids, bro.
Come on now, dog.
That's what it seems to be the case for the majority of these group of people, these white males, these white youths, or they just cook for Cocoa Puffs and they go and, do what they do to schools. That's just what it is. They don't go there to learn, bro. They go there to case the joint and see where the exits are. All right, if you get my drift. Damn. You have this man, he's saying this on video, bro. Like, there's no way to deny it. He's saying this on video that feminists, you have to understand that the whole word, because someone super chatted him like, hey, pedo has been a word to, hit people, hit men over the head, and to vilify men, and to raise the value, the sex value of hags, right? Of these women, of these feminists.
Ask Revolutionary sent $20. I know it wasn't your main point, but feminists have completely dominated men with the word pedo. They took what was natural male sexuality for all human history and conflated it with child fucking to shame men away from men and artificially increase the sexual value of hags. How old was Mary again when God impregnated her?
Dude, brother, so true. So true. That is so absolutely true.
I don't know what to tell you. They've gotten to the point where now I guess the age of consent is woke.
Do you know when age of consent became a thing? Like 30 years ago. That is a second wave feminist artifact. But you people are not ready for that.
I didn't see the writing on the wall, bro. I really didn't see it. I didn't expect this from the right, and I guess that's my fault. I sure as heck didn't expect this from this incel homosexual, but bro, it all makes sense. It all makes sense now. They're talking about age of consent is fooey, and that we should be able to mess with, 11-year-olds, because that's the one of the youngest people that Epstein was accused of messing with. And he wasn't, like, bro, when we talking about 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, he's talking about, it's all about, sexual maturity. That's what it's about.
Now, you can have your opinion and your taste and your ethics and your morals, but after the age of 14, that is past the point of sexual maturity. Just period, biologically.
And I'm just like, he then goes on to say that, the Catholics, all right, the code is that, hey, 14 for women, 16 for boys. But this whole concept that, because of society, that's why we can't go back to the good old days of 14-year-olds getting married to men and 13-year-olds and 11-year-olds getting married, right? This whole concept that society is poisoned people, okay? Because we're all about promiscuity. That's why we can't have these marriages. And you start to see a pattern that they then want arranged marriages, right? They big up in arranged marriages. And it all comes down to that these mofos is sick. They're part of the lineage of evil. That's why they don't want women's rights. That's why they don't want that. That's why they don't want women to vote. They want women to be nothing more than, I guess, ovens. Ovens for children, bro. They want them to be birth factories. That's it. They don't want them to talk. They don't want them to learn. They don't want them to know anything except recipes. That's what a good faction of this white right want. They're sick in the head, man. They are sick in the head. And it's not that they want women, because as we see, they want kids, man. They want kids. The moment in time when you're arguing over, well, that's not pedophilia. That would be technically hebephilia, okay? And that would be epiphilia. Bro, you've lost the plot, bro. You've lost the plot. When you're more focused on criticizing Israel than the innocence of children being removed, you've lost the plot.
Come on, man.
And it gets worse because he goes on to talk about, hey, this is the reason for the low birth rates.
So if a man and a woman reach the age of sexual maturity in their teens, we're telling them you have to wait 10 years? And what, they're going to be chaste that whole time? What are they going to do for those 10 years? When are women most fertile? It's not at 28, I'll tell you that much. And we wonder why we have a fertility crisis?
Brother, The reason for the low birth rates is that men can't sleep with 11-year-old girls? Is that men can't marry 15-year-old girls? That's the reason for the declining white birth rates? White women, I'm sorry. I don't know what to tell y'all. I I thought we had it bad, all right? I thought, with the racism, with the police brutality, I thought we had it bad. I did not know y'all had it this bad. The reason why the marriage is dead is mainly in many cases for these white women is because the man is gay or the man wants to transition. Okay, they'll be in, like I said before, they'll be in a 50-year marriage and then all of a sudden wake up and like, ooh, I think I want to be Becky today. I think that's what my name should be. I think it should be Becky. I feel like a Becky. I've always felt like a Becky ever since I was a child. Now I'm going to be a Becky. But I didn't factor in that the other option is that they don't want a woman. They want a child. And if you look at the data, if you look at the FBI crime statistics and whatnot, they are the ones that are messing with these children. They're the ones that are doing these heinous actions towards children. That's what they've done. I mean, you had, what's his name? Tim Tebow, I believe, who's even said that, hey, these mofos, they doing this.
The number one offender type is biological fathers.
Now, those of you that remember this was Tim Tebow on the Sean Ryan Show. This was a great episode. So if you guys get a chance, go over to the Sean Ryan Show. Find this episode with him and Tim Tebow talking about this. And he talks about how the number one predator for child sex trafficking is actually biological fathers. And I just thought that was pretty heartbreaking.
But by far, it is being done by middle-aged Caucasian men. Many, over half of them, college graduates. Many of them are educated, good jobs. This isn't just who we're thinking about. Like, they're technical savvy. And I think that it is time that we call them out. Like, that we can't stand by and stand back. Like, we have to stand up and say, not only are we not doing our job as men, it's actually the opposite. Instead of being defenders and protectors of our families, we're hurting and abusing.
And it all makes sense. It all makes sense now. I understand why the country is, where we are. I understand the racism. I understand all of it, bro. It all makes sense. I knew these fools were evil due to their hatred and disdain for black people, which was nonsensical. But I didn't know they were like really evil, bro. When we talking about children, bro, when you trying to, differentiate between, that's a 9-year-old and that's an 11-year-old. That's a really big difference. You gotta go, bro. We gotta send these people. These are the people that should be, honestly, I should be, deporting them. They gotta get deported to somewhere else, bro. They can't be here in America. They can't be here in America. And that's really the problem. The problem is that these people are here in America and they're now in positions of power. They're now in the Oval Office.
Someone needed to create a path that would allow black musicians from all walks of life to share their God-given gifts with the world. So I returned to Pennsylvania with my teacher's certificate in hand and opened a private music school, open to all races, that came to be known as the Cardwell-Dawson School of Music. Walter completed his training as a master electrician and joined...
We start wondering, at least I have, hey, why can't we have, nice things for the American people? Hey, why do we have so many missing kids? Why are these things? Why don't they want children to be educated? And now it's starting to seem that this whole government is in cahoots with the same, child trafficking that they're trying to allegedly stop. That's what it seems like. It seems like this is all systemically positioned, children to be at a disadvantage, especially black kids, so that they can traffic them, so that they can take advantage of them. That's what it seems to be. And bro, this is wicked behavior, fam. This is wicked behavior, and they are trying to sanitize it via the scripture. I don't know what to tell y'all, bro. I don't know what to tell y'all, bro. White women, for those because white women are now refugees. It just is what it is. Those are the facts. White women are now refugees. So they're going to be looking for some shelter. I'm just saying. I'm not saying that, black men need to adopt a white woman or anything like that. But I'm just saying they're going to be looking for shelter. It just is what it is, okay? So whether that's a black man, an Asian man, a Latino man, an Indian man, the refugee status right now. That's what they are. They're refugee status because their men are cooked. Anyways, guys, that's the video. Let me know what you guys think. Nah, bro. There is no either or here, bro. If you agree with that, please leave me alone, bro. Please leave me alone and don't let me ever find out. Because negative things will be happening, okay? I'm just gonna keep it a buck with you. That, zero tolerance. Zero tolerance. Anyways, if you happen to disagree, report yourself to the FBI. After you do that, feel free to call in during Disagreement Day. It's Thursday through Saturday. There'll be a number on screen. You call in, we do get out. Otherwise, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, please feel free to
Shout out to Lucas. So I'm going to play it from a different perspective. There was another person who covered it as well. Let's jump over to that clip.
File your taxes 100% free in the app if you didn't file with us last year. Just file with
Barely so. For instance, maybe somebody who turned...
Alright, shout out to Young Don, a channel favorite. Covered the same thing Amazing Lucas did, just a little bit of a different perspective, but they both had a great take on it, so we're going to watch this one. Shout out to Young Don. He covered Nick Fuentes is now defending Jeffrey Epstein.
18 last night. That would be an example of someone who is beer. Okay, so Nick Fuentes has gone full... He has gone full PDF file, man. Which, I mean, it's not a surprise. You know, Megyn Kelly, a couple of months ago, she went pretty viral for defending Jeffrey Epstein, stating that, you know, he was into barely legal girls. Revealing that she doesn't understand the meaning of words, because barely legal would mean that the person is legal, but just barely so. For instance, maybe somebody who turned 18 last night. That would be an example of someone who is barely legal. I'll show you the clip.
A nationwide uproar is erupting over Megyn Kelly's controversial remarks suggesting that Jeffrey Epstein wasn't really a pedophile.
He was into the barely legal type. Like, he liked 15-year-old girls. And I realize this is disgusting. I'm definitely not trying to make an excuse for this. I'm just giving you facts. That he wasn't into, like, 8-year-olds.
Now, that was bad, because Jeffrey Epstein was a rapist, sex trafficking, horrible degenerate, also best friends with the current president of the United States. So, yes, let's never forget that. But at the very least, she still said that he was a piece of shit, right? He was an evil guy, something like that. She still said he was bad. She at least acknowledged that he was bad for that. Well, Nick Fuentes has decided to one-up Megyn Kelly and not only assert that Jeffrey Epstein was not a for taking advantage of 14-year-old girls, but beyond that, Nick Fuentes is trying to assert that him taking advantage of or having sex with girls as young as 14 isn't a big deal. And it doesn't make him a pedophile. But don't just take my word for it. Let's hear it from the horse's mouth itself.
As revolutionary sent $20. I know it wasn't your main point, but feminists have completely dominated men with the word pedo. They took what was natural male sexuality for all human history and conflated it with child fucking to shame men away from an artifact. They increased the sexual value it has. How old was Mary again when God impregnated her?
Dude. Okay, before we dive into it, the people that follow Nick Fuentes, these are fucking vile sewer dwellers, bro. Look at what he says. I know it was your main point, but feminists have completely dominated men with the word pedo. Again, perpetual fucking beta cuck incel losers, man. Ooh, they're dominating us. They're dominating. Okay, right? Women are dominating men with the word pedo. These are the same guys who believe that women should fucking, if a guy tells a woman to jump, she should ask how high. And, you know, and jiggle her tits while she's doing it. These are these people. These people believe that women should literally be their fucking slaves. But somehow women are dominating men with the word pedo. Let's see. They took what was natural male sexuality for all human history and conflated it with child fucking to shade men away from it and artificially increase the sexual value of hags. Let's not forget the age of consent is 18. This person is essentially saying 18-year-old women are hags. They're washed up. Their best days are behind them. Pedophile. This nigga think 18, she in her golden years. This dude, the people that...
This is why I was like, bro, this is so problematic. So that's why, like, I was really able to appreciate Lucas's perspective on this, because Lucas said, bro, any young man that's following Nick right now, just stop. He's going to get you thrown in jail. And that's why I said, like, he was already problematic before this, but now I'm like, Nick, you're defending something where it's like, bro, it's questionable, bro.
That follow Nick Fuentes think that 18 years old, you're a grandma. You're a geriatric. Are you on statins? Do you need a cane? Huh? You got your speckles on, grandma? 18 years old, right? Hags. Okay, all right. Let's see. How old was Mary again when God impregnated her? And this is the root of the problem. These people live their lives based on fairy tales. Santa Claus, nigga. These people are making the most important decisions of their lives and are framing the way they view the world through what is essentially a fucking fairy tale, bro. Like, it's like, imagine basing the way that you think life should be lived off of...
Want to actually stick to your health goals this new year? Making this one change will help keep you on track all year long. I've never been good at keeping my...
Peter Pan, nigga. Off of fucking Cinderella. It's even worse than that, to be real. Okay, let's go. Let's hear what Nick got to say.
Brother, so true. So true. That is so absolutely true. And listen, you are not ready for that conversation. All of his victims, 14 to 17. That's not bad. But y'all ain't ready for
Jeffrey Epstein was what, in his 50s and 60s? How old was Jeffrey Epstein? This man was 66 years old at the time of his death. Okay? Check this out. If you're a man in your 60s or your 50s and you're having with a 14-year-old girl, you are by definition a pedophile. Oh, this shit is crazy.
For that conversation. People say that's normalizing pedophilia. No, that's defining pedophilia. Pedophilia is with children. Children are people that are before the age of sexual maturity. Now, you can have your opinion and your taste and your ethics and your morals, but after the age of 14, that is past the point of sexual maturity, just period, biologically.
Not true.
And all of these feminists and all of their...
Not true. It is a scientific fact that 14-year-old girls have much higher rates of death in childbirth. Pregnancy is incredibly dangerous for 14-year-old girls. You know, it's funny. Of course, Nick doesn't read the Bible because all of these Christian nationalists, they're just LARPing as Christians. These people don't know a fucking thing about the book that they claim to believe in. It's so absolutely disgusting and despicable. Even as somebody who completely rejects the religion, it's so nasty how much of a disservice they actually do to the orthodoxy of this book and the context of this book. But in the book, even God gives an example to the Israelites. He says, right, when you go into the land and you plant food, and you plant trees, and they are bearing fruit, that you shouldn't eat the fruit that is born on the first year that the tree produces fruit. So you plant a mango tree, God said in the Bible, don't eat the first set of mangoes that come from the tree. If you're breeding dogs, for instance, if you're raising dogs to breed dogs, you will learn that the first time a female dog goes into heat, you shouldn't breed her, right? It is good to allow her to go through multiple cycles, because just because she's starting to ovulate, it doesn't mean that she's ready.
They all want to say there's only two genders. They want to talk about reproduction and genitals. Okay, let's talk about reproduction and genitals. When do men and women reach the age of sexual maturity? It ain't 18. It isn't 20. I've seen women say, a 20-year-old girl is a literal child. No, sorry, she's not even a figurative child, let alone a literal child. Do you know what canon law...
Let's see what the science actually says. If we turn to the National Library of Medicine, right, PubMed Central, this is a study that was conducted by the Department of Pediatrics and Maternal Health at University Hospital at Siena, Italy, or in Siena, Italy. Okay, check this out. This was their conclusion. On one side, scientific literature more and more clearly says that the less risky range of maternal age to bear babies is 20 to 30 years. 20 to 30 years. The science tells us that this is the least risky age range for a woman to have children. Now, if it is the case that peak sexual maturity happens at the onset of womanhood, right? Ovulation, menstruation, all of that. Would it not be the case that a girl would have the best outcomes in regards to safely delivering a child at the very beginning? See, perverts like Nick Fuentes and the people who think like him and all these fucking fundamentalist religious psychopaths that, you know, believe in their 2,000-year-old religion and believe that, you know, it's supposed to be followed literally and that shit was all perfect and whatever. They look at women like cars, right? You know, like when you buy a brand new car, a car will never be better than the day you purchase it. When the day you roll it off the lot, when everything is pristine, clean, never used, right? This is why these people are obsessed with the idea of virginity and
If you got hit, even as a passenger or in an Uber, you would need to try this.
And so the most ideal time for a girl to start having children is the moment she starts to get her period. But if that was the case, why is it that we see that the healthiest babies and the healthiest mothers happen between the age range of 20 and 30 for the woman? And that's if we're just looking at this from a purely biological level. Of course, these fucking psychopaths don't view women as humans, and so they also completely neglect the psychological aspect of things, which is equally important, if not more important, if I'm going to be honest with you. However, if we're strictly looking at it from a biological point of view, you're still completely wrong. Science tells us that they are not sexually mature at 14 or 16 or even 18.
And the Catholic Church says, it says the minimum age to get married is 14 for women, 16 for men.
Yeah, and the Catholic Church also says that fucking this nigga walked in water and turned water into wine, and fucking the earth was created 6,000 years ago, and the fucking, you know, all the animals, land animals crossed thousands of miles of ocean in order to get on a boat. Yeah, the Catholic Church says a lot of bullshit.
That's the canon law of the Catholic Church.
This is how religion is used to keep us in the fucking dark ages. This is the problem with religion. If we got rid of religion, all of this shit would just go away. This fascistic fucking nonsense, this Christian nationalism. Religion makes people stupid, bro. I swear. Religion makes people stupid and it makes people cruel. No offense to those of you who are intelligent and empathetic in spite of your religion, and be certain, have no question about it, that is exactly what is happening. If you're a religious person and you're loving and kind and empathetic and you're intelligent and you think critically, that is in spite of this fucking fairy tale that you believe in. No offense.
So, you want to pull rank on me with morality? I would take you there.
See, this is what it looks like when you actually take the fucking book literally. This is what it looks like. You look like a fucking psychopath.
And by the way, that's how it was for thousands and thousands and thousands of years. Do you know when age of consent became a thing? Like 30 years ago. That is a second wave feminist artifact. But you people are not ready for that. Because ultimately, feminism is the Matrix.
So how about this? Stop going to fucking the grocery store, and how about you go hunt? How about you go hunt, skin your animals, and stop refrigerating your animals, okay? How about you go grow crops and hunt? Because that's what we had to do for thousands and thousands of years.
And that is how women have browbeaten men with this, pedo, rapist, misogyny, all these words to prop up women's rights. That's ultimately what it's about.
Okay, Nick, he's fighting for the right to fuck 14-year-olds. Now, here's what we know. Nick Fuentes is a homosexual. Allegedly. We don't know for sure.
Right, this is alleged because there's just things that we've seen going on over the internet where it just kind of looks very suspicious, or, we hear, I don't remember who covered it. I think it was Secular Talk, but, then for a while there was a joke about chipmunk porn. There was just a lot of stuff, so it's pretty crazy.
Right, we don't know, but, come on. So he's just pandering to his audience because his audience is mostly heterosexual fucking demons, and of course they want to fuck. They like the idea of fucking a 16-year-old girl. Now, I would venture to say most of Nick's fans doesn't want to fuck 14-year-old girls. A lot do, but I would say most don't. I would say most of them they like the idea of a 16-year-old girl, like a junior or a sophomore in high school. They like that. They like the idea of that.
It's about women completing high school and going to college. That's what it is. The only reason, and let me tell you this, I'm not in favor of everybody go have sex with 14-year-olds. I'm not saying that.
You kind of are.
I'm saying that the only reason that people are so horrified when people talk about 16 and 17 not really being immoral is because we have a culture of casual sex and pornography and hookups and prostitution. That's why. Why is it considered completely depraved at age 17 and a half versus 18? Because we hate the idea of young, vulnerable girls being preyed upon by strange men, by pimps, by pornographers. That's why it is.
A new program that I am particularly excited about is that we are going to bring adaptive radio.
Abhorrent. Because there is something true about that. If you are grooming a child into sex, if you're I should say a teenager, if you're grooming...
See, he can't even fucking... Yes, no, you're right. 14 years old, you're a fucking kid, dude. You're a child.
If you're grooming a teenager into prostitution, pornography, that is especially wicked. Because teenage girls are vulnerable. Teenage girls, arguably, cannot make those decisions.
Okay, but marriage, there can make that decision, right?
But that is only because we live in a society where that kind of predation is happening. And that's where it starts to make sense when women say a 19-year-old is a child. Well, no, a 19-year-old isn't a child. However...
No, who is saying 19-year-old women are children? Who is saying that? Nobody is saying that. Right? You might call a 19-year-old a kid if you're in your 30s or 40s and they die tragically. You know what I mean? You're oh my God, they were just a kid. They haven't lived life yet. But from the perspective of holding them accountable as an adult, no sane person is walking around calling 19-year-olds children.
18-year-old teenage girl might be just as susceptible to grooming as a 17-year-old. That's why it seems arbitrary.
Nobody is fighting for 19-year-old girls not being in consensual adult relationships. This is a fantasy. What is this straw man that he's constructing?
19-year-old teenage girl, an 18-year-old teenage girl might be just as susceptible to manipulation and grooming as a 17 or 16-year-old girl by a man who only wants sex from her.
But more than likely not. Yeah, it's possible. It's possible you got 14-year-old girls living in third world countries and they have to be adults. They've been adults since they were fucking 6. They've had responsibilities that American people don't fucking even begin to think about until they're in their 20s. Sure, fine. But all else being equal, no. A 19-year-old person is not easier to manipulate on average than a 16 or a 17-year-old person.
I'm marrying her.
Common sense.
By a man that wants to pimp her out, that wants, whatever. All these things that are happening in our society. So what are we really talking about? What we're talking about is women being taken advantage of. And we're saying that it is especially heinous when a younger, more vulnerable girl is taken advantage of. Consent is not, I don't think that's really a real thing.
Consent is not a real thing. Okay. Permission is not a real thing. Okay.
I think that's like a feminist construct. And these like legal limits, I think that's very arbitrary.
Giving permission is a feminist construct. Men have to consent as well to things all the time. And it's not just in the world of romance and sexuality, right? Like, if somebody takes your fucking lawnmower without your permission, they did it without your consent. What do you mean it's a feminist construct? See, this is the brain rot. These people are crazy.
Talking about is younger girls that are sexually mature being taken advantage of.
We already discussed scientifically, biologically, why it is that they are not, by definition, sexually mature. With his fucking gay he's always in this fucking this fucking sassy pose right here. Yeah. What, you trying to show off your clear coat there, Nikki?
But take that up with a society that doesn't value.
Don is so wrong. It's clear coat or nail polish. I knew where he was going to go with that. I knew it was coming.
Marriage. Here's the difference. In the old days, girls would get married at 16. And I think far fewer people would object to that. Some people still might.
A lot of people would. No sane person wants their 16-year-old daughter to get married. What the fuck are you talking about?
Girls that get married at 15, 16, 17.
The data shows us clearly that when people get married at that young of an age, their chances of divorce are astronomically high. You're not mature enough. You don't know shit about shit yet. Your brain isn't even close to being fully mature. And so, yeah, that's a horrible decision. Terrible decision.
The more you stay home, the less you want to leave. And the more you stay, the heavier everything feels. You think you
recognize that that's different. If they're in a marriage where they're being provided for, they're going to have kids, they're going to become a mother, they're going to build a life with a man who's going to love them, that's different, actually, than the society we have today.
It's also a fantasy.
And the only reason you need age of consent is because we have a society that's built on...
I feel like with Nick, you can tell it's a fantasy, too, just by the way he talks about it. Like, to me, he gives off, like, that's something that he would like.
The pill. We have a society that's built on birth control. We have a society that's built on abortion, pornography increasingly, all these other things. And so now when we think of like sex and women, we think, oh my gosh, make the age of consent 21. Because why would we want an 18-year-old girl to have her 18th birthday and then get on OnlyFans? It's insane. Why would we want a girl to turn 18 and be able to become an escort? Or sleep with any and every guy in college? It's gross. But that's only because we hate the idea of women being taken advantage of. But you know what? Women can be taken advantage of at any age because women are emotional, trusting, more so than men. Women...
I don't even know what to say, man. This is just misogynistic bullshit, just hogwash. Okay. This is why these men who subscribe to this kind of thinking are struggling to date women. They're struggling to find women. And this is why they want to return back to the fucking 1920s, because they need to enslave them. They need women to be dependent on them. That is the only way they can get punani, bro.
Women are easier to manipulate, and younger women easier than more mature women. And that's really the issue.
The fact that you are like one of the most famous conservative men, the fact that Donald Trump is the president is in fact a sign that men are incredibly and very easily manipulated. That's what that tells me.
So don't take it up with, people love to say, that's really the wrong lens. No, actually, that's not. And I think that there is such a hysteria about that and obsession with that on the right. And I think, like everything else, it defines down what a heinous crime really is and what a perversion it really is.
All right, man. All right.
So for those of you that don't watch Don, you probably don't know why he's at a loss of words right now, right? So Don has 2 daughters. So I can just imagine his disposition. His daughters are very young right now, but I can just imagine what's going through his mind watching this, listening to a guy like this just talk about women like that with 2 daughters. Literally, I don't even need to know why he's reacting like this at the end. I totally understand. All right, guys, let's go ahead and jump to the next clip.
Let's cover 10 pro tips for working with the Cursor agent. So I've got Cursor open and my agent on the right. And the first.
All right, we got Elon Musk having an obsession with underworld AI. That's not shocking, is it? All right, let's take a listen.
When is all white collar work gone? By when? Well, there's a lot of inertia. So.
Look at what Elon's headline is. That's why I said underworld, because he's talking about the world under AI, and I'm like, dude, that just sounds evil. So yeah, it was pun intended, guys. Let's keep listening.
Even with AI at its current state, I say you're when is all white collar work gone? By when? Well, there's a lot of inertia. So even with AI at its current state, I'd say you're pretty close to being able to replace half of all jobs. And you know that white collar jobs, that includes anything like education too. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So anything that involves information, and anything short of shaping atoms, AI can do probably half or more of those jobs right now.
Elon Musk is at it again. According to Elon Musk, artificial intelligence can currently automate half of all white-collar jobs, but apparently those aren't the only jobs at risk. Musk went on to state that Optimus robots, which are being produced by Tesla, of course, will be able to perform tasks as advanced as surgeries in a matter of years. Take a look.
Doctors have limited time, they make mistakes, and you say, like, how many great surgeons are there? Not that many great surgeons.
When do you think Optimus will be a better surgeon than the best surgeons? How long for that?
3 years.
3 years. Okay. Yeah. And by the way,
I'd say 3 years. 3 years.
Okay, so Elon thinks Optimus will be a better surgeon than a human surgeon in 3 years. I mean, I don't know. How do you guys feel about that? You want Optimus to do brain surgery on you or heart surgery? Dude, that's... man, I don't know. Come on, bro. Like, you need the human factor in there. That's kind of crazy. But I get it. He's obsessed with this stuff.
That's the best surgeons. How long for that?
3 years.
3 years. Okay. Yeah. And by the way,
I'd say 3 years. 3 years at scale.
Yes.
There'll be more. There'll probably be more Optimus robots that are great surgeons than there are all surgeons on earth.
Medicine is going to be effectively free. The best medicine in the world.
Everyone will have access to medical care that is better than what the president receives right now.
So don't go to medical school.
Yes, pointless.
He's saying this, and he looks like he's even having a hard time keeping a straight face as he's saying the things that he's saying. This is so ridiculous. Look, like, we've heard this from Elon Musk before, right? We have to remind people, okay, let's just get through the story. Elon Musk has a financial incentive to hype up his own product. He's saying three years, and we're not even going to need surgeons anymore. Nobody go to medical school anymore. He just says things, right? Because he knows that if he says something, stocks will go up, and that's really his only incentive, right? He only thinks in the short term. He only thinks that he makes a promise and he gets investors. That's how he makes his money. But he's not the only one making those kinds of predictions. A new report from Goldman Sachs Research warns AI can potentially automate tasks that account for 25% of all work hours in the U.S. And a hot new San Francisco startup, Mercor, has hired more than 30,000 contractors to recruit specialists, from psychologists to train AI to do their jobs. Why would they want to do that? The company got a $10 billion valuation for a reason. So what's more, artificial intelligence can allegedly figure out how to automate jobs on its own. Anthropic revealed this week that one of its AI tools, Claude Code, built a new product, Cowork, which allows others to use AI for workplace tasks normally done by humans, like creating presentations and summarizing meetings and consolidating research. AI built AI that will displace human work with AI. Great. Again, remember the financial incentives at play for all of these companies. But if these doomsday predictions are true, then the U.S. is facing down an unemployment iceberg that we are utterly ill-equipped and unequipped and unwilling to just take on head on. So why aren't our politicians doing anything about any of this? Well, Axios reported this. Both major parties are oddly silent about what to do about the possible jobs inferno that seems to be coming. Among the reasons they expressed privately, policy experts are at a loss. It's not here yet. Politicians are reluctant to poke the bear on a subject that makes people queasy. Wow, they really, as far as we joke a lot that they have no backbone, but they really just don't have a backbone. What Axios failed to mention, though, is that artificial intelligence companies are preparing to flood Congress with donations. So maybe what they're waiting for is not for the bad thing to happen, because they don't believe in any kind of preventative care, if we're going with the medical analogy, but they want to see how much money they'll get before they actually do something. So AI companies are setting their sights on Congress, and we know that once that happens, anything Congress does do will be in the interest of those AI companies and not in the interest of the American people. So the largest of the pro-AI super PACs, Leading the Future, has a war chest of more than $100 million from prominent investors and executives. The day after Leading the Future was announced in August, Meta revealed its own super PAC. The company announced a second super PAC in September. Meta has donated tens of millions to each group. So that is convenient for our politicians who are about to make a whole lot of money, I guess, if they just decide to do that. But Waz, you made an allusion earlier to 9/11, and you said that back then, a lot of our politicians learned the lesson that if they're on the wrong side of whatever it is, it's going to come back to bite them, and that's not going to be good for them. And maybe they don't want to get involved in certain debates at all. But then you have to wonder, what is the point of you being there? Why did you want that job in the first place if you're just going to sit there and occupy space and do nothing? If you just want to take the money and just sit there with it, you're the one who wanted this job. If you just wanted money, you could just go do something else. What do you think, Wes?
If you are sleeping in a position like this, you are wrecking your body and your breathing. Obstructive sleep apnea
I think part of it is that they kind of know this is spin. And you hit the nail on the head when Sam, what's his name? Sam Altman and Elon and Zuckerberg, when these guys are making public statements about their own products and companies, they have their share price in mind when they're doing that. Always remember.
I would say they absolutely do. You know what else they have in mind? Because I watched an interview by the CEO of OpenAI, which is Sam Altman. And Sam Altman talked about the 5 things about AI that actually terrify him. So obviously, at that point, sure, he probably did have, a stock price in mind. But you know what he also had in mind? He was like, I'm gonna try to be as transparent as I can, and I'm gonna literally tell these people three or five things that terrify me about AI, right? Hoping or probably thinking that everybody would just look at it like fairy tale. Yeah, it's kind of crazy. People need to pay attention to what they say on their open platforms about their own products.
Tesla's not a car company. SpaceX isn't, a spaceship company. Grok isn't an AI. They're stock companies. Their goal is to increase stock prices. It's not to make, these incredible products that fly off the shelf. Like Tesla's valuation is not related to the number of cars that Elon moves in terms of units. It's about a perception that he's built up around himself amongst VC and Silicon Valley culture and Wall Street, that he's this guy that's visionary and whatever he's doing, needs to be taken seriously. But this idea that they're going to eliminate 50% of white collar work, it's preposterous. It's just absurd. And I think honestly, because I'm not an AI doomsday. I'm not some AI utopia person either. I don't think we're going to get incredible brain surgery and healthcare outcomes from robots. Like, I don't believe that's the case, but I do think that even if jobs are lost, just new jobs will spring up. Like, this stuff is always going to need to be serviced. There's still going to need people working on stuff. It's just jobs that we just can't envision right now, right? But I think this idea that they're going to eliminate 50% of the white collar workforce, which I think would be something like, I think it'd be something like 20% of all workers. If we did that, would be like, that's insane. That's a recipe for a revolution, a coup. Like that's a recipe for overthrowing the government. If you put that many white collar, petty bourgeois people out of work, like that's insane to me.
Yeah, I mean, there is zero forward thinking. I don't know what they think is going to happen once all these things actually do happen, which, it might, eventually. But the thing is, like, not really, because even experts who study these things, who study AI and what the future implications of AI could be, say that we're still going to need doctors, right? Yeah, we're going to have these robots to help us. They'll help with diagnosing.
And that's my thing. Like, I don't think people mind them helping, being around, and doing small tasks. But when you talk about, like, brain surgery and heart surgery and, like, cutting off and replacing limbs and things like that, I'm like, come on, people, what are we talking about here? And I get it. Some people like, this is cutting edge. They're excited about it. Others, not so much.
Different various diseases, including rare diseases. Like Dr. House would be a little less relevant in the AI future, right? Because we'll just have like these AI Dr. Houses around to help us diagnose these weird things, but we're still going to need doctors, right? Like you can't run the AI on its own. And also, we just covered a story earlier in the show about how ICE was trying to use AI to recruit, and now we have all these crazy ICE recruits running around who are not qualified for the job, right? And yeah, Elon Musk has a reputation at this point for promising things that he cannot and will not and does not deliver on. For example, we were supposed to have people on Mars in 2025. That didn't happen. We're supposed to have Tesla robo-taxis, and he also said that his AI was going to achieve AGI, which it has not. So I don't know why people just keep giving him money every time he just says something. And a lot of these tech billionaires, Sam Altman especially, he's taken a note from his old friend Elon Musk. They just say things, and I think we need to stop putting less stock, literally less stock, in the things that they say.
Every time you ring the bell below, an angel gets his wings. Totally not true, but it does keep you updated on our live shows.
You always...
And that's the thing, like, this has been Elon's strategy for a long time. I've watched little live streams by Elon where he's talking about new inventions coming out or new stock markets coming out or something with Bitcoin. And you can literally manually watch the stock go through the roof. Like, Elon does this all of the time. And that's really all he has to do. Like, historically, this is how he's been. And he sells stocks this way. So that's just kind of been Elon's way. All right, guys, let's jump to the next clip.
This is embarrassing.
All right, shout out to the amazing Lucas again, channel favorite. So we got Lucas reacting to something that he says is a easy question. We have a doctor being asked a question by two Senate representatives. I don't know if Lucas plays both of them. I know it's Senator Moody and Senator Harley, Josh Harley, and they are asking this doctor, can men get pregnant? And she is struggling with the answer. So let's take a listen.
Oh my goodness. So there was a Senate hearing today regarding the safety and regulation of abortion pills. Now, the stage is set, okay, between the right and left. We know how they think. When it comes to the right, they want to federally ban abortion. Anything and everything to do with abortion, okay? They don't want women to vote. They don't want women to have a choice. They don't want abortion pills. They don't want nothing. They don't want sex ed. They want nothing. They want a whole bunch of white babies running around, regardless if they have a family, regardless if they have a dad, a mom. That's what they want. And then when they try and go and get snapped, they want to deny it. Damn. So that's what the right wants. Now, when it comes to the left, I've seen fringes of the left where they're like, hey, the day of, they should be allowed to get an abortion. They should be allowed to yeet the baby, okay? Yeet the fetus. There are those people, okay? There's a spectrum on both sides, okay? That being said, the problem that we have is before we even get to, unplanned pregnancies, pro-choice, pro-life, we have to understand who can get pregnant.
Without the ones like you working tirelessly to keep things running, everything would suddenly stop. No matter your industry, Grainger's here for you with professional-grade supplies. Call, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
I know. That's where we are right now, just so we're clear. So naturally, during this hearing, it is asked upon this doctor, Dr. Verma. She was brought up by the Democrats. And it was asked upon Dr. Verma by Senator Moody as, hey, can men get pregnant?
Ms. Verma, can men get pregnant?
Dr. Verma,
Yes.
I just want to make sure.
Dr. Verma, can men get pregnant? As a doctor, give me your opinion. As a doctor, can men get pregnant?
Now, listen, it is 2026, y'all. Okay, it's 2026. If you can't answer that question as fast and as swiftly and as easily as 1 + 1, we got a problem. Beta! Okay, we have a serious freaking problem because the answer is no. It's not yes. It's not It's not ugali. It's not what do you mean by that? The answer is no. Men cannot get pregnant. I, a man, cannot get pregnant. Okay? Whether you believe in evolution, whether you believe in design, that there's a God, I can't get pregnant. End of story. This doctor, all right, by the Democrats, doesn't respond. It's almost like you asked her, hey, give me the full sequence of pi. I'll help you. 3.14, finish the rest, right? She's just like, she's stumped by this question.
As a doctor, give me your opinion. As a doctor, can men get pregnant? I'll move on to the next one.
Everybody knows you never go full retard.
Naturally, Moody goes on to ask the other people on the panel, hey, can men get pregnant? No. Can men get pregnant? No. Simple, right? Very simple.
Doctor, can men get pregnant? No. I know you're a lawyer, an AG, like I was an AG. Can men get pregnant? No.
Listen, Democrats, if this is the route you want to take, okay, you can go ahead and take that route, but you will lose the midterms, all right? Given all the nonsense that everyone has had to deal with when it comes to Trump, if y'all are telling people that men can get pregnant in 2026, we don't care, bro, all right? We'll let the country crumble before we start having people tell other people that men can get pregnant, okay? That's embarrassing. That is foolishness. So it then progresses. And we have Josh Hawley. Now, Josh Hawley is a POS. He's a clown, right? That's what he is. But as a clown, even he knows what 1 + 1 is. So he then asks the doctor again, can men get pregnant?
Why don't we just start there? Dr. Verma, I wasn't sure I understood your answer to Senator Moody a moment ago. Do you think that men can get pregnant?
I hesitated there because I wasn't sure where the conversation was going or what the goal was. I mean, I do take care of patients with different identities. I take care of many women. I take care of people with different identities. And so that's where I paused. I think...
You are a fucking idiot.
And even as biologically speaking, can men get pregnant?
Do science and evidence tell us that men can get pregnant? Biological men, can they get pregnant?
I also think yes/no questions like this are a political tool. And
No, yes/no questions are about the truth, doctor. Let's not make a mockery of this proceeding. This is about science and evidence. So I'm asking you, the United States Supreme Court just heard arguments yesterday at great length on this question. This is not a hypothetical question. This is not theoretical. It affects real people in their real lives. And you're here as an expert, called by the other side as an expert. And you've been telling us that you follow, right, you're a doctor, and you follow the science and the evidence. So I just want to know, based on the science, can men get pregnant? That's a yes or no question. It really is, I think.
I think you're trying to reduce the complexity of a lot.
I'm not. I'm trying to get, it's not complex. I'm trying to get to an answer, and I'm trying to test, frankly, your veracity as a medical professional and as a scientist. Can men get pregnant?
I think you're also conflating
This is extraordinary. Stop it.
My body truly grew weary of bending over to trim my nails, often pricking myself in the process.
This doctor, this clown, starts humming and hawing. Well, I'm very confused by your line of questioning. What do you mean by that? And this and this. Listen, bro, I don't know what to tell you all, bro. And listen, I'm very well aware of the whole trans belief and everything because it makes no damn sense. And I'm not saying that to attack trans people or anything like that. But you have to understand what they told us. Listen, this was the message. Hey, I was born a man, but I feel like a woman. Now, we question that. What you mean you were born like a woman? How do you know what a woman feels like? What are you talking about, right? But we let that slide, right? We're like, okay, I get it. You feel like you're in the wrong body. You want to transition. Gotcha. Understand. Because what they want to say, well, you have to understand that sex and gender are two different things, okay? You can be biologically a man, but your gender be female. That's what it can be. All right. People let that slide. They let that slide. You already conceded on, people being born gay and, gay marriage. So y'all like, all right, I get it, born that way. Got you. These mofos is talking about, well, I'm a man, but I can get pregnant. Hold up. What are you talking about? What are you talking about? You were a woman, right? And you suffer from gender dysphoria. You believe that, hey, due to the societal norms of what a man and a woman is, that didn't really click with you. That being a woman didn't really click with you. That you were more of a man, all right? And then you transitioned to a man. Well, upon you transitioning to a man, guess what, boo-boo? You can't get pregnant, all right? That's not how that works. So your uterus should go bye-bye. All that down there should go bye-bye. You should have the junk, the gear, and the equipment that of a man. And as a man who's been a man since his birth, okay, I will tell you, I can't get pregnant.
He's out of line, but he's right.
I ain't got no uterus, I ain't got no ovaries, I ain't got no eggs. That's not how it works. But it seems that these people want to have their cake and eat it too. They want to freaking have like a hometown buffet of like the human body. They want to be, I want a man, but I want to be a woman, but I'm also lesbian. It's like, you're a man, but you're a trans woman, but you're also lesbian? What? We're flying to Philadelphia. Oh, hell no! Pimpin', you're a heterosexual man. What are you talking about? What are we doing here, bro?
See, and this is why, like, you need people like this to react to it, right? Because Lucas is just coming at it from a very real point of view. He doesn't disrespect, like, the trans and the gay community. I watch Lucas often. He pays them respect. But he is making a good point here where he's like, basically pick one, which I think a lot of people just feel like that, Like, you want more of a buffet of everything, and you can't do that.
You doing all this to go back full circle. It doesn't make any sense, but because they always complicate things. Well, you have to understand, I'm a man. I was born a man, but I'm a woman now. But I'm a lesbian woman, so I date women. But how I come off, as far as my gender expression, is that of a masculine woman. Are you retarded? And it's like, what? You can switch it up. By all means, if it makes you feel better that you, I don't know, whatever it is, you want to do hometown buffet with your gender and sex and all that, go ahead. But when we talking about abortion, right? Women can only have abortions. like, are we really extending women's rights to men? To biological men? Is that what we're going on with? I mean, this is where we're getting, we've had this out in LA, where you've had a biological man in the women's spa.
LA County DA's office has filed charges against the person accused of indecent exposure in a women's locker room at a Los Angeles spa. You may remember the incident back in June touched off protests outside the We Spa in Koreatown over transgender rights. Police identified the person involved as 52-year-old Darren Morager of Riverside County. Morager, who has been a registered sex offender since 2006, now faces 5 felony counts of indecent exposure.
You're mentally off the rocker. It just is what it is. They even acknowledge that. You do understand it is not normal. It is not normal whatsoever. It's very abnormal for you, whatever you say is sex and gender are different, but it's very abnormal for you not to identify with the sex and the gender you were assigned with at birth. That is abnormal, okay? Less than 1%. I want you to understand this. Less than 1% of the entire population has this abnormality, has this feeling. Now, we have been, as a society, we have been, accepting of these people. We have been tolerant of these people. But now, when you start saying that men can get abortions, bro, you losing people. You going cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs, bro. Now you allow, it is what it is. You allowing me in the basketball team with the other women on the female basketball team. I would love to see a man go on the WNBA. I think that would be hilarious. But once again, I'm not a woman, so this is all at their, demise. It's all jokes to me. But once we start getting down this road, bruh, when you can't even answer a question, can men get pregnant?
And yet you won't even acknowledge the basic reality that biological men don't get pregnant. There's a difference between
And so many people were saying that this doctor needs to lose her license, that she shouldn't be able to practice, that she's delusional, so how is she able to carry a license? Well, yeah, because as a doctor, everyone in the courtroom, that's why at some point the courtroom erupted in light laughter, because it's a simple question. It's either yes or no. You want to clarify that you're a doctor, but then you still don't answer the question.
biological men and biological women. I don't know how we can take you seriously and your claims to be a person of science if you won't level with us on this basic issue. I thought we were past all of this, frankly. I can't believe we're still here talking about this.
I am a person of science, and I'm also someone here who's here to represent the complex experiences of my patients, and I don't think polarized language or questions serve that goal. I don't think they serve the American people.
You've lost the plot. I'm all about being accepting and welcoming and progressive, but you've lost the plot, bruh. All right, you all saw how Kamala Harris lost the election. She lost the election off of this, okay? Off of this position, off of that commercial, that ad that Trump ran, Kamala Harris is for they, then I'm for you. So Democrats If you want to forego 99.9% of the population for that 1%, you go right ahead. Anyways, guys, that's the video. Let me know what you guys think. No, there is no let me know what you guys think. There is no either or here, okay? There is no either or here. You're a fool. You're a simpleton if you believe men can get pregnant. They can't. All right? Very simple. And women, okay, do not have dangalangs. Men have dangalangs. I thought we learned this in I don't know, in what? I'm trying to think how, I'm trying to think how young did you realize this? As a child, bro, you was like, oh, I got something that they don't got, right? Anyways, if you happen to disagree, you know where to find me. Thursday through Saturday, Disagreement Day. Number on screen, calling me, duke it out. Otherwise, I hope you guys...
Shout out to Lucas. He has Disagreement Day often. It's hilarious. You guys should check it out if you ever get a chance. Go to his channel. All right, we're going to go to the next clip of the live stream. I'm just mad he said it like that.
He's rude. I only seen part of his Disagreement Day.
Mr. Mubashir, you're recognized for 4 minutes.
Ranking Member Jayapal and distinguished members of Congress, thank you for the invitation to testify before you today. My name is Mubashir Khalif Hussain. I am a 20-year-old U.S. citizen. My family is Somali, and when I was 6 or 7 years old, my family arrived in the United States as refugees from Ethiopia. 8 months after arriving in the United States, we moved to Minnesota. I became a naturalized citizen in 2019 along with my parents and my siblings. But my citizenship did not protect me from being physically detained and hurt by ICE agents. On December 10, 2025, I was at work in the Cedar Riverside neighborhood. Around 1 p.m., I heard a commotion and what sounded like whistles and car horns. When I looked out the window, I saw what I assumed were ICE agents on the street. I did not want to be confronted by ICE, so I waited 20 or 30 minutes until the sounds died down before taking my lunch break. As I exited the building, I paused to speak with someone on the street about what had happened earlier. That was when I noticed an unmarked 10 SUV approaching us. A man wearing a ski mask and a police-style vest entered the vehicle and quickly walked towards me. The man did not say stop or identify himself. I turned to walk away, hoping he would leave me alone. The man quickened his pace, grabbed me forcefully, and pushed me into a restaurant, and asked, "Why are you running from me?" I was not running. I was just walking away because I did not want to talk to him. I knew that ICE agents had been targeting people that looked like me. I immediately started repeating over and over again, "I'm a citizen, I'm a citizen, I'm a citizen." But the agent did not stop to look at my ID. A second ICE agent entered the restaurant. They dragged me outside and put me into a headlock on the ground. I repeated, "I'm a citizen, I have an ID." The agent kept saying, "That don't matter, that don't matter." They put me in the back of an SUV. While I was sitting in the back of the SUV, my boss came out with a copy of my passport card. He held the paper on the agent's windshield, but the officers ignored him and refused to take the documents into account. They eventually drove me one street over before parking and told me they had to stare my face. I was terrified of what they were going to do a picture of me, and I did not trust them. I would not let them take a picture of me. The officer also kept telling me that they were going to take me in if I did not let them stare my face. One of the officers pulled out his phone and threatened to push a button and call for transfer. At that point, there were 3 ICE agents with me in the car. My back hurt from when I was put in a headlock on the ground, and the handcuffs were extremely tight on my wrist. Each time I asked the agent, "Can you please loosen the handcuffs?" he would squeeze my hands. When I asked for medical attention for my back and my wrist, the original ICE agent told me there were going to be medical assistance at the facility. After about half an hour, the ICE agent drove me to their office near Fort Snelling. When we arrived, they forced me to take the face scan. When we got into a building, the agents took the handcuffs off me and put shackles on my ankles. Before searching me, I asked for water. They said no. Then an employee told me I was being deported. I again insisted that I was a citizen and that I could show proof of it on my phone. I showed a picture of my passport card to a woman at the ICE office. She took a picture of my passport card and then searched for my name in the criminal database. Eventually, she said, kick him out. It is difficult to believe that this happened to me. I knew that the president had made statements about Somali people and that there would be additional ICE officers in the Twin Cities focused on Somali people. But I did not think that this would happen to me, someone in my family. We are all United States citizens, so we should not be at risk of being jailed or deported by ICE. In the neighborhood in which I work, I hear screaming all the time. Coming from encounters with federal immigration agents, I also hear whistles and honking all the time. When I hear these things, my heart starts beating really fast and I can't breathe. It brings me back to what I went through, and it almost feels like it's happening to me again. It is terrifying right now, wherever I go. I am here today because what happened to me is wrong. The targeting, harassing, violence, and detention of Somali American is wrong. And I am worried for the safety of me, my family, and my neighbors and community. If Congress does not act, we will continue to be harmed simply for living in the United States of America. Thank you.
Snap your W-2 and file your taxes 100% free. Plus, get your biggest refund. Roughly 37% of filers qualify. Simple.
And his son gets kidnapped. It's
All right, so the Somali case, I don't know if you guys remember that case. I just wanted to play it because he finally got to his hearing. I remember watching that. I covered it on a live stream when it happened. I think I covered it the exact same day, a couple hours after when we got the footage. And yeah, I remember this guy. You can see him in the video kind of yelling like, I'm a citizen, over and over again. I think that's the reason why he made the headlines the way he did, because people were saying that. You could hear him saying that over and over again, and the ICE agents were just kind of ignoring him. They pushed him in the snow. They had him down on the ground like they normally do. And they kind of just, they roughhoused him, and everybody kind of saw it. But with this, it kind of just made headlines because he was constantly screaming he was a citizen, and you saw the ICE agents ignoring it. So we're going to go over now to Nick Jones. Shout out to Nick Jones, a channel favorite. We watch him often. He's covering Denzel having a conversation about God, Denzel Washington. So shout out to Nick Jones.
It was okay. I watched the movie. It was okay. Okay, let's get to the Denzel Washington stuff. Because this ties very closely into the conversation that we just had about Kai Cenat. So Denzel Washington sat down with Spike Lee. They're having a conversation about the movie that they put out. What's the movie called? I forget what it's called. I watched it. It's one with Denzel. He's like he's a record label executive, super successful guy, and then his son gets kidnapped. It was okay. I watched the movie. It was okay. It could have been better. The ending was kind of whack. But anyway, they sat down, they had a conversation. Spike Lee asked this question. He said, Denzel, what do you want to be remembered for? Oh, I see what she's saying. My wife texted me. She said, every time I do this, it goes to my hand. I don't know why it's doing that. But anyway, Spike Lee said, how do you want to be remembered? I want you to listen to what Denzel said.
Denzel.
Yes.
We all leave this earth. We all will. What do you want to be remembered for?
A man of faith. A man of God. A human who's made a ton of mistakes. A humble man. God-loving, wife-loving, children-loving, who did the best he could with what he had. And I don't know if that was a quote from Malcolm X, but to God be the glory. Only the mistakes were mine.
He said, Denzel, what do you want to be remembered for? No hesitation, he says, a man of faith.
Introducing Connectors, a simple, seamless way to connect your Replit apps and automations with the other tools you use.
With zero hesitation. Do you know all the possibilities of what he could have said in response to that question? And rightfully so. Rightfully so. Look at the success that he's been able to obtain.
Denzel could have been like, I want to be remembered as, he could have said, I want to be remembered as the best person from Training Day. You know what I mean? Like, he could have said a lot of different things. So, yeah, he's very accomplished, so rightfully so.
On this earth. Look at the notoriety, look at the attention, look at everything that he's been able to obtain on this earth and achieve. He could have said a variety of different responses to that question. But the first thing that he said is that he wants to be remembered for being a man of faith and being a man of God.
Yeah, I mean, we know, I said that jokingly, we know what Training Day was for Denzel. He could have said he wanted to be remembered as King Kong. He could have said he wanted to be remembered as the actor with the most Grammys, the most accomplished actor. He could have said a lot of different things. So, yeah, rightfully so. Hey, close that door, you got it cracked.
Naturally, my question when I heard that is how? That was my question. How do you do that? How does one be remembered for being a man or a woman of faith? How does one be remembered for being a man or woman of God? How do you do that? That was my question. And then I started thinking about Jesus, right? I started thinking about Jesus. Because here's the thing. I was reading this article, right? Here's the question. In what year did Jesus die? And there's a lot of different debate, there's a lot of different discussions. But according to this article, it says that the crucifixion took place during a Passover, Mark 14:12. And that fact, plus the date that John began his ministry, narrows down the date of the crucifixion to Friday, April 3rd, AD 33. It says there's also an argument for an earlier date, April 7, AD 30, based on an earlier start to John the Baptist's ministry, and an assumed co-regency of Tiberius and Augustus. The later date seems more in keeping with the historical record. So why do I bring that up? Why do I bring that up? Why does that matter? Well, the reason why I brought that up is because I started thinking, I'm like, bro, how does one be remembered as a man of faith? Because if we're being honest, there's nothing more that I want than to be remembered for my faith. There's nothing more that I want than to be remembered for the relationship that I have with God. And there goes my leg. My leg is shaking again. I should get a camera, a leg cam. I'm not trying to be on no, freaky stuff. But I should get a leg camera and just show you how much my leg is shaking. Because it's shaking. It's shaking. Hey, pause. No diddy. I started thinking, how can I be remembered, or how can we all be remembered as men and women of God? Because that should be the goal. As we just spoke about in reference to Kai Cenat, that should be the goal. Our goal on this earth should be to give God the glory. That should be the goal, right? So let's just say Jesus died, because there's a debate as to when there's a debate as to when the exact date is. But we know for sure it's over 2,000 years ago, right? It's over 2,000 years ago. But yet, there is nobody more popular than Jesus. There is nobody more spoken about than Jesus. There is nobody more studied than Jesus. there is nobody more remembered than Jesus. You remember what I...
And Nick makes a great point here. Another thing that there is that, because I reacted to this in a different live stream, and someone said something. I said, there's also nobody as mocked as Jesus, right? There's no religion as mocked as Christianity. People were like, no, people make fun of other religions. And I said, they absolutely do. I said, but nobody mocks any religion more than they mock Christianity. So yeah, with everything that Nick is saying, which is 100% true, Jesus is also the one who is mocked the most.
I was talking about in the intro to the stream, I said I was driving around with my wife, and randomly I got emotional. I'm not going to lie to you. I had a couple of tears in my eyes. I got emotional because I was thinking about Vadi. And I was like, Vadi Bakum. Vadi was such an amazing man of God. Was he perfect? No. Who's perfect? Just only Jesus. But he's such an amazing man of God, a representation of what a man of God is, a husband, a father, his ministry, the books that he wrote, the time that he devoted, his church, everything, like everything. It's like, bro. But yet he passes away and people talked about him for like a week. And then it's like no one else, that's it. You know what I'm saying?
Let's cover 10 pro tips for working with the Cursor agent. So I've got Cursor open and my agent on the right. And the first tip is to use plan mode.
And the reason why I say that is because Jesus did something so counterintuitive that to this day, it's still talked about and remembered. Jesus did something so counterintuitive that to this day, it is still talked about and remembered. You know what I was thinking about? I was thinking about love. I was thinking about love. Because what did Jesus do? What did Jesus do that was so counterintuitive that it was still remembered to this day, right? John 13, verse 31. A new commandment. When he had gone out, Jesus said, Jesus said, now is the Son of Man glorified, and God is glorified in him. If God is glorified in him, God will also glorify him in himself and glorify him at once. Verse 33. Little children, yet a little while I am with you. You will seek me. And just as I said to the Jews, so now I also say to you, where I am going, you cannot come. A new commandment I give you, that you love one another, just as I have loved you. And also, you also are to love one another. By this, all people will know that you are my disciples, if you have love for one another. Jesus said, you love one another, just as I have loved you. You also are to love one another. By this, all people will know that you are my disciples. All people will know that you are my disciples, if you have love for one another. Why do I bring that up? I was reading this commentary and it said that humans tend to prefer taking rather than giving. Humans tend to prefer taking rather than giving. So instances of selflessness leave us amazed. Instances of selflessness leave us amazed because humans prefer to take rather than give. Jesus did something so counterintuitive that to this day, it is still talked about and remembered. He laid his life down for us. He gave his life for us. So, just reflecting on what Denzel Washington was saying, that he wants to be remembered as a man of faith, that he wants to be remembered as a man of God, right? I think as human beings, there's not much that we can do to control the narrative or the perspective that a stranger has of us unless they actually meet us. Now, of course, with social media, with the internet, we can put out content, we can speak, we can release stuff to the public. And sure, that has an impact in terms of what people think about us, right? But unless you actually meet somebody face to face in person, you don't really know that individual. You don't really know their heart. You don't really know what they stand for. You don't really know what they believe unless you actually meet that individual. Because here's the thing, we have a lot of people, a lot of Christians, because what's the thing that people always say? There's no love, there's no hate like Christian love. That's the statement that you always see on social media. I see it all the time in comments on TikTok. There's no hate like Christian love. You know why people say that? It's because a lot of us, a lot of Christians, we do a lot of this. We do a lot of talking and we don't do a lot of action. We don't actually put action behind our words. We just talk. We just talk. We talk about it. We talk about it, but we're not actually about it. We don't actually do what we talk about. We just talk. We talk about what we're going to do. We plan out the things that we intend to do, but we never actually do it. We just talk about it. And that's why from a worldly perspective, we have this narrative, we have this overarching perspective that there's no love or there's no hate like Christian love. Because there's not enough of us who are actually doing what we talk about. And the things that we talk about are what we read in the scriptures, what we know. We know what to do. We have the blueprint. It's laid out for us. We have the Bible. We know what to do. We know why we're here. We understand our purpose to give God glory. But yet we still fall short. And I think that's natural because we're human beings. We have all fallen short of the glory of God. We have all sinned. But I do think on a day-to-day basis, we have to be very mindful of how we are conducting ourselves.
One too many pairs of shoes? Sell them on Vinted.
On a day-to-day basis, we have to value others above ourselves. And that is very difficult because
I think it's more difficult because of the society we live in. Like, we don't live in a society that tells you to put people in front of yourself. That's not popular, right? They're like, I'm going to do me. I'm going to take care of me first. Like, and it's just not a popular thing to just deem other people as more important than yourself. But that's what Scripture tells followers of Jesus to do.
Here's this word again. It's counterintuitive. It's counterintuitive To value others above ourselves is counterintuitive because that's the opposite of what the world tells you. The world tells you to focus on you. That's what the world tells you. Focus on you. Put everything on the back burner. Put everyone else aside. Right? But in humility, we have to value others above ourselves. We have to stop focusing so much on our own interests, and we have to be interested in others. And we have to be interested in their best interests. And I think in that process, in that counterintuitive process, is how more and more people will remember us as men and women of faith, as men and women of God. I'm not saying everybody's going to remember you in that way because it's impossible. Because we are not God. We are not Jesus. We are going to fall short. We are going to make mistakes. We're not always going to say or do the right things. But I think we have to be more intentional with putting others before ourselves. And here's the thing, like I said, and this is not why we do it. This is not why we do it. But this is just what happens. Is that, going back to this verse, when we delight ourselves in the Lord, the things of the Lord, when we focus on what God is focused on, which is that sacrificial type of love, that agape love. Shout out to agape in the chat. When we focus on that agape type of love, that sacrificial love that Jesus displayed on the cross, when we focus on that, then God will give us the desires of our heart. But that's not why we do it. But that's just what happens in the process. And I think that's how we can be remembered by more people as men and women of faith, men and women of God. Because ultimately, if we're being remembered as men and women of God, then guess who's getting the glory? It's God. God's getting the glory. And I think that's what we all want at the end of the day. I think that's what we all want. Philippians 2. Verse 1. Verse 1, excuse me. Oh, y'all got an ad break. Okay. So if there is any encouragement in Christ, any comfort from love, any participation in the Spirit, any affection and sympathy, complete my joy by being of the same mind, having the same love, being in full accord and of one mind. Do nothing from selfish ambition or conceit, but in humility count others more significant than yourselves. Let each of you look not only to his own interests, but also to the interests of others. Have this mind among yourselves, which is yours in Christ Jesus, who, though he was in the form of God, did not count equality with God a thing to be grasped, but emptied himself by taking the form of a servant.
New episodes Mondays.
Even after all these years, I never tire of this view.
Your favorite community returns.
Action.
With open arms and open hearts.
Do you think they're official?
Hello, Bill.
Hello, Georgie.
You've sure had adventures in these woods.
Hopefully we'll have some more.
and the moment you've been waiting for.
Don't mess this up.
When Calls the Heart. New episodes streaming Mondays on Hallmark Plus on YouTube Primetime Channels. Start your free trial.
Sometimes I just need a little break, and this is it. Marie Callender's Chicken Parmigiana Bowl. Scratch-made sauce.
Counterintuitive. That is counterintuitive. Who would have thought, number one, that God would come down from heaven in flesh? That's number one. Who would have thought that? Crazy. Number two, who would have thought that God in the flesh would take the form of a servant? That's counterintuitive. That's the opposite of what the world would think. That's the opposite of what the world would do or suggest. That's the opposite. You know what's so interesting? And this is kind of like a sidebar, but not really, but it's kind of like a sidebar. Because I see business. I have like a business mind. And so when I'm reading this and when it says, let each of you look not only to his own interests, but also to the interests of others. Let each of you look not only to his own interests, but also to the interests of others. Like I said, this is a sidebar, but it's very interesting to me. Do you understand from a business perspective, the corporations, the individuals, the entrepreneurs that are the most successful are the individuals, are the corporations who are focused on the interests of others more than they are focused on the interests of themselves. Now, this is interesting because there's a lot of people who say like, well, a lot of these companies be taking advantage of us in XYZ. I understand that. But the core principle of doing good business is to be focused on other people and helping them solve problems and serving people and offering solutions that can best apply to their situation, that can leave them in a better place than before. That's the core element of doing good business. And I just think it's so interesting that you see that in the Bible. And I think it's so interesting because you see those same principles being applied by non-believers. And then what I think is so interesting even further, you see non-believers apply this principle and then they become successful using that principle. And then because of that success that they experience by using this principle, they start to manipulate it. And they start to take advantage of that principle. And then they start to take advantage of the people, of the customers that they used to serve. Because then it becomes all about the money. Then it becomes about all of what they can get from the consumer, as opposed to how they can serve and solve their problems and leave them in a better place than they were before. I just think that's very interesting. I don't know if y'all agree with me, but I just think that's very interesting. You said I'm preaching right now? So listen, if you made it this far in the video, one of two things. You either really rock with me, or you just fell asleep and the video is still playing and you just woke up and now I'm talking to you. Either way, go to Twitch. I'm going to link it down below in the comments because this whole clip was taken from my Twitch stream, and I would love if you joined the stream the next time I stream. But in order for you to know that, you got to go to Twitch. You You got to hit the follow button. You got to turn on the notifications so you can be notified the next time I go live. All right? I appreciate you. God bless you. I'm out, y'all.
Shout out to Nick Jones. I appreciate that interview. He killed it. I appreciate his coverage there. We're going to be watching more by Nick Jones in a couple hours for Saturday's live stream as well. I want to grab another clip for you guys.
On the note.
Imagine making $453,000 in a single month as an affiliate marketer without relying on Google, Facebook, or ClickBank.
All right, so sticking with Nick Jones, I wanted to cover this because...
All right, y'all. So this was a very interesting moment that a lot of people seem to be talking about.
He reacted to something that Kai Cenat said, so we're going to get into that really quick.
And I know you see the title, I know you see the thumbnail, so let's just get right into it and let me show you exactly what Raven said, and then let's have a conversation. All right, let's go.
There's so much.
Why do you think the Disney Channel alumni end up the way they are? That was your original question to me.
If you want to, I mean, Nickelodeon. There's a.
I can't touch a topic I don't know.
Okay, well, yeah, but there's a. Well, here's what I want to say. Again, because I know only a few adult actors that have come through as children.
Yeah.
And they're good. Some are completely out of the business. Some of them, God rest their soul, aren't with us anymore. And some of them are doing good.
And are scarred from the industry.
Yeah.
Back. Yeah.
So, I mean, look, there's a ton of stuff. I mean, there's stealing the person's money. There's like the thing of you don't even know what you're on. You're on a set like you don't even remember that part. I don't have remembered before 6. So if you did 5 years on a show, you don't remember it.
Yeah.
There's money stealing. There's the pressures of fame. You're 11, but you're really 37. You know what I mean? And it's like there's access to drugs. There's
access to sex.
Yeah, I mean, it's sick, but, there's pedos, there's all types of shit, and I haven't seen that. But, like, you hear more and more now, and there's, like, the darkness, and then if you want to go dark, it's like, how dark do you want to go?
How dark do you want to go?
Well, I mean, like, there is some occultism. I mean, it's up to you. And it's up to you to decide what you want to share. So, I think that people come out of it, I applaud them because, like, I could almost cry. Like, I worked with Amanda when she was 16 years old. And I'm sorry.
I love me some Amanda.
She's so sweet.
She's super sweet.
She's
I talk to her
so
now.
sweet.
I talk to her every now and then now. Because I want to go like this.
her.
I want to go like this. Come here. Come here into my black southern arms and give me a hug, mama, because you need a hug. She's going through it, you guys. She's going through it.
I don't know what happened to her. And I just remember how sweet she was and all of the different. I didn't even know it was gonna happen to me. Like she was the epitome of sun. And I don't know what she's going through. And the business does that. And but there's other people.
And it's sad to hear him talk about it like that, especially, Raven Simone, you could hear it in her voice, you could hear him, you could hear the sadness, when people talk about the industry. You hear them talking about some really horrific things they went through, especially as childhood actors, childhood performers, and singers. So it's just interesting to just, see these two particular people talk about it who had such a close-up, who had a front row seat to it.
Like, you're so shiny, and it's beautiful. And then there's, like, my buddy Corey. Corey's been in it since he's 3. He's seen
the world that we are in.
And he's doing good.
Yeah. I will say this. I wasn't able to be friends with her at her height in time.
You guys both had a similar height?
We had a similar height at a similar time, and I wanted to work with her so bad.
Mm-hmm.
It just didn't pan out. And then when I saw everything that happened, I was like, I need to reach out to her. I know she doesn't know me from Adam. We did a couple of things. Like, we did TRL together, and then we did a magazine cover together or whatever. But People like that, we just need to go and hug. We don't need to make fun of. We don't need to perpetuate whatever's going on with them. And I feel like that's the part that hurts me the most about Hollywood and the way that we've set up how to speak to celebrities. When we fall, when stars fall, we tend to laugh and point and say, I knew it, instead of realizing that there is a lot of that we have to manage that not a normal brain is used to managing. I want to add to it because I'm not saying that you're wrong. What I'm saying is when you're a young actor coming up in the industry,
young boy too.
You also hit this section in your career where do I move forward or do I wait and go away? And that comes when the sexual aspect of do they see me as sexy comes, right?
What is that?
Meaning, so, Amanda did Maxim.
But she had to be 18.
But still, she was a child star. And then you have to make that bridge into adulthood, which is, are you attractive to us? And you already have that thought process when you're younger. You know what I mean? So that's why you have these moments in child stars' careers. We're like, why did they do that? But they're trying to be sexy and they're trying to do that. So not only do you have to wear all those hats, but you also let's break it down for the people that aren't in the industry. You're going to high school. The high school that you're going to, most of the time, you started off with those people in kindergarten. And you're growing up. By the time you get to high school, that's when you get puberty. That's when things start to look awkward. But thank goodness you're just in your high school. But you know the drama that comes with that moment. When you get boobs for the first time, it's like, oh my God, I don't want to show it. Now imagine that with the whole world watching. It's just the whole world watching you go through that day when you get your period for the first time and you have to be on a red carpet and everyone's looking at you. Or pick a problem, pick a childhood growth and then put it in front of the camera. And that was when I was growing up. Now it's like Instagram and TikTok. Do it again on small screen and big screen and tell me that you're normal in the brain. Tell me you're normal in the brain. Prove it. I dare you prove it. You're not. You can't be. It's impossible. And like you said a little bit a while ago, you're 11 on a show, but then you're expected to be 35. You know what I mean? And people are like, well, the brain can't handle that. The brain will do anything in order to survive. The brain will change its dynamic and its growth pattern in order to survive. And at 11 years old, please, not everybody does this, but I know that I did it, and a lot of people that I grew up in the industry did it. We knew that we were on $1 million shows, and if we didn't show up, we ruined something. The pressure comes. At 11 years old, somebody that's not in the industry, you don't go to school, oh, you're sick, you're fine. You don't go to work.
Wow.
You don't go to, what? Now it's different, though. Now it's extremely different, and
So... And it's so much more widely accepted, too. I was talking about this with my mentor at work. I was asking him so many different questions about, why do you think society is so different when it comes to certain different things? He had a great stance on it. We had a great conversation. But, yeah, it's like so many things now are accepted where just a couple years ago or a decade ago, we would all be like, no, absolutely not.
It's really good to see you back where you belong.
Where you are is where I belong.
She said a lot of things very interesting that I want to touch on. She said there's this transition when you're a child star, Disney Channel, Nickelodeon, things of that nature, whatever it is, right? Movies, whatever it is. There's a transition where it's like, okay, are you going to pause? And are you going to take a step back from the spotlight? Or are you going to ride this wave into your adulthood? Because if you're going to choose to ride this wave into your adulthood, then it becomes a question of, am I attractive to them? Because whoever they are, you know what I'm saying? Let's talk about the pronouns, they, them, whoever they, them are, producers, directors, executives, casting directors, whoever they are, right? Are you attractive to them? Because that's already the conversation that's bubbling up behind the scenes. That's already being had as you are working in your childhood. They're already predicting the path of where your career may or may not go. Because one thing we know for sure, a lot of this industry, a lot of the world is driven by sex. It's driven by lust. So human beings, from an entertainment industry perspective, of course, those individuals are going to have that lens, and they're going to be looking at these actors and actresses, even at a young age, trying to figure out what category can we put you in? What box can we put you in? How can we maximize your marketability so that we can continue this wave and allow you to enter into more and more households and be more famous? And a lot of that is tied to sexuality. A lot of that is tied to lust. And the fact that Raven said that they felt that as children, I can't even imagine what she means by that. I can't even imagine what she means by that they felt that pressure as children. And even further, and this is something that I forgot about because she had talked about Amanda Bynes, who I was a fan when I was a child of the Amanda Show. I was a big fan of That's So Raven. So, I mean, these are pivotal players in my childhood from like a TV entertainment standpoint. Because I was in front of the TV a lot. I've probably seen every episode of That's So Raven. I was watching the Amanda Show. I was watching all that. I was into all of it, right? But something I forgot about was, Amanda did the cover of Maxim when she was 18 years old, which is very strange. It's very creepy. It's an odd transition to go from Nickelodeon, to go from child content straight into adult content, where now you have these adults who are fantasizing about a newly turned 18-year-old on the cover of a magazine. That's very strange. So obviously this was going on behind the scenes, and I can't even imagine what she meant by that. She also said it's impossible to be normal in the brain when you grow up like this, which makes a lot of sense. Because the next thing she said is that your brain essentially is going to adapt and will do anything to survive. Excuse me. Your brain will do anything to survive. So you put that in perspective as somebody who was in the industry like Raven, and you try to understand that as a child, that she's saying that as a child, your brain will do anything to survive because as a child, they understood that they were involved in a massive production that made a lot of money and could potentially lose a lot of money depending on their performance. And they want to be a part of that. And they don't want to lose that spot because this is, after all, it is a competitive game. It's a competitive industry. There is somebody who's trying to take that slot to fill that role that you have been cast in. So as a child, the amount of pressure and the position that they were put in to be manipulated, to be taken advantage of, it is evil. It is wicked. There is no other way around it because these are children. And so you have to ask yourself, from a parental standpoint, were you guys around? You know what I'm trying to say? Like, or was it just a thing of like, hey, this is my child successful. They're making a lot of money. People love them. They have fans. This is great. This must be good for them because look at what it's producing in our life. Success, money, fame, fortune, yada, yada, yada. But internally, as a child, emotionally, physically, spiritually, was that the best thing to allow your child to be involved in? Because after all, they are children, and you would think that their parents would be the ones to properly steward them in the right direction. But once again, the temptation comes and we start making decisions and we start doing things, we start compromising, and that compromise has effects, right? Now, I wish you would have spoke more about like the dark stuff that he was talking about, the occult stuff. I thought it was very interesting. She didn't refute anything. She didn't deny anything. She simply chose not to expand and she chose not to elaborate on that claim. But she didn't come out and say that's not the case. She didn't come out and say that's not true. She didn't come out and say that she never experienced any of that stuff. So I think that's noteworthy. I'm not going to overly speculate, but I do think that's noteworthy because I do believe there is some dark stuff going on. I do believe that there is some occult stuff going on. I was watching this interview, and the woman said she used to be a witch. Now she's a Christian. She said that the people who believe in the power of prayer the least are Christians. But the individuals who practice occultism and witchcraft and dark magic, voodoo, hoodoo, whatever it is, they understand the power of prayer. They understand the power of communicating with an entity in order to try to achieve something in the physical or the spiritual. They understand the power of it, and they do it consistently. But then you look at Christians who have access to the Holy Spirit, which is the only true spirit. Everything else is dark. Everything else is counterfeit, right? I'm not saying that the other spirits don't exist, but there is no truth in those spirits. The Holy Spirit is the only true spirit, the Spirit of God, right? So we have access to the Holy Spirit, but we don't pray like we understand the power that we actually have access to. Otherwise, we would be constantly in prayer. We would be in a state of nonstop prayer if we truly understood the power that it has. So you look at these individuals.
And Nick makes a good point there. That's why I wanted to speed it up to that point, because I have plenty of friends that they'll say like, yeah, Q, you know I'm praying, but it's like they're actually not praying. They're actually not setting time aside to be with the Holy Spirit and sit with the Holy Spirit, and be intimate with him. They're just like praying on the fly, or like I like to call them drive-through prayers.
Who practice the occult, who we've seen over countless stories, countless testimonies, countless news reports and news articles that this type of stuff is present in the entertainment industry. And we see the fruit of it. We see what it produces. It's hard for me to not believe that these individuals aren't actively involved in some dark magic, involved in some witchcraft that is essentially powering and leading and guiding the direction of what they're creating. I'm not saying that's true for the entire industry. I'm sure there's some good people in the industry. I'm sure there's some good people who love Jesus in the industry. But oftentimes we hear more about the dark stuff, and that's what tends to be exposed. So it really makes you question, and for me personally, it makes me question what it was that I was actually consuming as a child. Because like I said, I was into all of these shows. I was watching everything on Nickelodeon, everything on Disney Channel for the most part. Some shows I thought were kind of corny and I wasn't into, but a majority of them, I was watching them, I was into it. But it makes me question, what were the actual spirits behind these television programs that I was watching?
Yeah, and it's crazy spirits, because there's plenty of things I used to watch as a child that I went back to watch as an adult, and I'm just like, wow, I missed this. Wow, I didn't know it was in here. It's all over the place. Like, you see all kinds of things in these in this Disney and all these different platforms where I feel like what they're doing is manipulating, and their main goal at first is children.
Watching. There's a reason why they call them TV programs. It's programming something. It's programming you to think and believe in one direction. It's being led by something. What were the spirits behind it? Because the more that I see these former child actors and actresses speak about their experience, it's hard not to believe that some dark stuff was going on. So some dark stuff is going on. They're producing and creating art in the midst of that, and then they're putting it out to the public for children to consume. It's very interesting.
Interesting to say the least. Bad business for the most part. I appreciate you guys for chilling on the live stream. We'll be back in a couple hours for the live stream on Saturday. Saturday we come back for 2 live streams. At least that's the goal. But I have something I want to share with you guys as far as like clips. So we will be back in a couple of hours. I appreciate you guys chilling on the live stream. I will see you guys in a few hours. Take care of yourselves. Take care of one another. Love yourselves. Love one another. Be peaceful. Tell somebody about Jesus.